see a larger appear on the horizon. You're surrounded by journalists. Hold your position.
Overnight success. The Glazenator 3000. Double blaze. Right. That's misinformation.
Market clearing order inbound.
That's just wrong.
We are surrounded by journalists. Hold your position.
Come, get up. Trust the experts. 5 total. We are experts. Founder mode. 5 code.
I see multiple journalists on the horizon. Stand by.
Experts.
UAV online.
Glaze. Double glaze. Triple glaze. Double kill. 5 code. Wrong. Pump is up. Glaze.
Team deathmatch.
We are experts. Triple glaze. That's just wrong. Right.
Market clearing order inbound.
Come, get up.
We are surrounded by journalists. Hold your position.
Strike 1. Strike 2. Activate global retriever mode. Trust the experts.
Market clearing order inbound.
5 total.
I see multiple journalists on the horizon. Stand by.
Founder mode.
Naughty. You're watching TBPN.
Today's Monday, August 3rd, 2026. We are live from the TBPN Ultradome, the Temple of Technology, the Fortress of Finance, the capital of capital. Let me tell you about ramp.com. Time is money. Save both. Easy to use corporate cards, bill pay, accounting, and a whole lot more all in one place. How was your weekend, Jordy?
My weekend was good. So my weekend was
A little hot here in
fantastic.
Southern California, but all the more reason to get to the beach, enjoy the nice weather. It's been a good summer.
On a boat.
That's nice.
What more can you ask for?
That's nice.
We got a great show today.
We do.
Unfortunately, only one venture capitalist, and I think that's because it's August.
Oh, yeah.
You're going to see us really struggling.
It's going to be hard to get those VCs to hop on the podcast.
Every other month.
It's hard.
They're happy to jump on same day, moment's notice.
You know it's important.
We got one today.
Yeah, we got one.
Shaun Maguire coming out with Isaiah Taylor announcing a $1 billion Series B led by Sequoia.
Very excited.
Very excited for that conversation. We got Justin, co-founder of Base Power, another $1 billion round, Series D. And then we have the founder of the Demon Robot.
Yes.
That you may have seen last week. It's a centaur with horns.
Beau Gaston.
And we're very excited to talk with Beau and get a sense for what went through his head when he made the robot like that.
Can you stop? Can you not?
Can we pull up a picture of the robot? There it is. There it is. So this is the friendly robot that Beau is excited to get into disaster zones to help rescue people.
And apparently the horns are critical because there are cameras on the end of each horn, and that allows it to see the ground, which couldn't put those cameras anywhere else, I guess. It'll be a lot of fun.
And then closing out with Ron over at Intology. But let's get into the show. What happened over the weekend? Did anything happen over the weekend, John?
There were a couple things. The big debate that I was tracking, sort of outside of tech but tech adjacent, was the cancellation of Hank Green, the YouTube creator. Not quite a cancellation, more just some backlash. Hard to always put a proper sizing on a mob when a mob comes after a creator. But Hank Green, the YouTuber and really media entrepreneur, he's grown a huge business, which we can sort of go into, is getting pilloried on social media over using ChatGPT for research. Very controversial these days. Only 1 billion people do it. But yeah, and it's the #1 app in the App Store. But he's getting a lot of backlash from certain members of his audience. I don't want to characterize the whole audience as being part of this, but it's a very silly
There's
situation.
At least thousands of people.
It seems like
really
that.
Mad about it.
It's always hard to tell. I mean, thousands of people that are liking a post about it. There's like maybe dozens of posts. I don't really know how to put a scale on these things. But Hank Green is definitely going through it, having to sort of apologize or qualify or sort of state that he will adjust things in the future. And it's just sort of interesting to hear how he went through this process, what he says is going to change, and where the backlash is coming from, because there's a lot of misunderstandings about it. So. And what's interesting is that he is a science and education creator, and science and education are potentially the most affected by AI right now. And so it's a real challenge to simultaneously say, I'm going to cover math, I'm going to cover science, but I'm not going to touch AI. That AI stuff's bad, because as we also saw over the weekend, AI is making a bunch of advancements on math. We've been seeing this for a while, but the latest version of the story comes from Noam Brown, Polynomial, over at OpenAI. He says an internal version of Astra, OpenAI's next major frontier, next major model family, solved 10 major open problems in mathematics, quantum complexity, and theoretical computer science. The achievements are so extreme at this point that I don't even think it's worth us trying to break them down. Like we did that with the
instead,
distant problem.
Tyler is going to run a 5K here in the Ultradome to do a little victory lap for the research team.
But not everyone is impressed
Get ready, Tyler.
with it, because Gary Marcus says, wake me when Astra solves a significant open world problem that doesn't revolve around formal verification. And of course, Daniel Eth says the goalposts are on a completely separate planet. It is a good point. Obviously, AI is doing better in formally verifiable tasks. At the same time, still impressive, because there's a lot of things that are useful and verifiable, like did this drug cure your cancer or not? Or did this job get done or not? Like, we've been using these recommender systems for lots of things. They're very valuable all over. But it is funny. The debate over is this AGI, is this ASI, those terms will always be vague. And dig in.
Going back to Hank.
Yes.
So all he did was admit that he used some sort of AI tool for research.
Yes. So I will take you a little bit more through it. First, I'm going to tell you about Shopify. Shopify is the commerce platform that grows with your business and lets you sell in seconds online, in-store, on mobile, on social, on marketplaces, and now with AI agents. They got AI on Shopify. So if you're selling something, you're using AI. So Hank Green, he's an OG YouTuber. He joined YouTube in 2007. I think less than 2 years after the platform actually launched, and he grew. He got a lot of views, but he also built a huge audience and created a real media company around it. So he has Vlog Brothers, like a vlog channel. Then he has Crash Course, which is a really, really huge educational channel. He runs VidCon, which is basically the premier conference around YouTube and the creator economy. I've been, I think, once or twice. It's a lot of fun. And over the last 20 years, he's become one of the most trusted educational creators on the platform. He's also just like, he gets the vibe of YouTube very well because he's been around it so long. Never really stepped back fully, but always been, solid audience there. So last Wednesday, he published an episode of a show called Ask Hank Anything. And it's an interesting concept for a show. So he brings on a guest, but then instead of just doing the interview, tell me your life story, ask the guest a whole bunch of things, the guest brings questions for him about science or whatever. They have a big, long conversation. And if there's something in the show that he can't answer on the fly or he's not prepped for, he will go do the research and then get the actual answer and then cut that into the final episode. So you'll be watching them hang out. They'll talk about some odd thing. He was talking about this. Have you heard this Kiki and Booba thing? There's like two words that basically there's two shapes. One's like a fluffy cloud. The other's like spiky like star, essentially. And if you ask people generally, which one would you assign the word Kiki to and which one would you assign the word Booba to? People always pick Booba is the cloud and Kiki is the spiky one. And it's like the sound of the word has a shape to it, and this is just something in our language that shows up all over the place. So he's like telling the story of this, like just somebody ran a science experiment. They, put a bunch of people here, they pulled a bunch of people, they put together this result, and this is what happened. And so he needs to compile all of that quickly because you get off the show, you have the rest of your job, but then you have to go answer these questions and have all the information. And of course he uses all sorts of research tools. But he was accused specifically of using ChatGPT to write the script, which is interesting because after the episode went up, manager Jojo posted a clip of him from the episode and accused him of using ChatGPT to write the script. The key line is Hank saying, quote, "I appreciate the pushback." And that's sort of an AI phrase, but that wasn't one of the really trigger AI phrases like "you're absolutely right" or "it's not this, it's that." I appreciate the pushback is something that the AI models say occasionally, but you wouldn't think it would make it into a script. But that's why people jumped on it. They were like, wow, he was so careless that he left in a turn of phrase that was the model talking to him about "I appreciate the pushback." That's not what happens. He's actually responding to the guest pushing back on him and about this concept, and then he answers it. But he was just talking, but it feels out of place because he's talking to the camera at that point, even though in the video he's talking to the guest after the fact. The way it's edited is him direct to camera, so him saying "I appreciate the pushback" to the camera. What is this? Beans? I don't know. But him saying that "I appreciate the pushback" feels a little weird when you just watch it, but it makes sense in the context of the longer video. So the headlines proliferated over the weekend to the tune of Hank Green accidentally reads AI prompt feedback left in his script. Hank has to deny this, but he goes on to admit that he does use ChatGPT for research. Dun, dun, dun. This did not land well. People don't like the idea of him using ChatGPT to research. And clearly, it's just a small subset of his audience that actually takes the time to flame online about AI usage. But there's still dozens of posts, maybe hundreds of posts about how AI cannot be used for research because it hallucinates or it removes some key human element of the process of learning, something like that. It's very odd for anyone who's used modern models because there's a lot that AI can't do well yet, but pulling a bunch of links and quotes together from across the internet is something they're pretty good at. And it's definitely reliable for that. And so Hank clarified the script was not written by AI. He was just going on ChatGPT and saying like, hey, where did this original research come from? Pull up the paper, download the PDF, crunch it all together for me, pull some quotes from it, change this into a different format. I want it in this units instead of that units, those types of questions. But he still said that he has not been happy with how he's been using AI and may wind up publishing less as a result. He feels like he's on a little bit of a treadmill because he's more productive with AI, but then he posts more, and then that's a feedback loop. And of course, like at this point in time, he's like built his career over 20 years. He has a very sustainable business. He probably doesn't need to be on as much of a treadmill as perhaps an early stage creator might be. So it doesn't feel like it's total audience capture, but there is this interesting opportunity here that I was sort of just identifying. Like AI is clearly this wedge issue. Billions of people use AI and get value from it, but at the same time, it's deeply unpopular, and there's lots of people who like to post angrily online about how AI is bad for a variety of reasons. But education and science in particular are going to be intertwined with AI for the foreseeable future. Like every advancement in science is going to be AI enabled. And so if you're a science educator and you constantly have to be dancing around AI and be like, oh yes, like they solved this math problem, but I don't like it because AI was used, well, you're going to wind up just not being able to talk about math or science or whatever's happening because you're constantly doing this dance around AI. And so that's fine. There's that audience that will love that. But there's also an opportunity for a new audience that's maybe a little bit more nuanced about this, and maybe just, yeah, it's fine that you use that for doing research. Maybe as long as the script sounds good, I'm fine, or as long as you are clear about your policy, which is odd because that's what he was always clear. He's just still got attacked and had to go on this defensive. I believe he has like a published policy around how him and his employees at his media company can use AI or do use AI or don't in various scenarios. But this was the first time I've seen a like real backlash to just pulling that up on ChatGPT. I totally understand. There are people that could just use AI to generate the video and not be involved at all, or use it in the script, or use an AI voiceover.
Yeah, it's just funny because I have this reaction all the time.
Yeah.
When I realize a video on YouTube is just it's a fully AI generated script that somebody's just reading over.
Yeah, or AI voice is reading it.
Yeah.
Yeah. It sort of just depends. At the end of the day, it's just like, is the content quality, is the insight valuable? And what I would go to Hank for would be, he does a bunch of research across a whole bunch of tools, Google, ChatGPT, whatever he uses, read a book, read papers, watch documentaries, listen to podcasts about a topic, and then tell me what Hank thinks is interesting about that. The filtering process and the taste is what.
Back in your day growing up,
yeah.
Did teachers ever say, I really don't want you using Google for the homework?
No. There was never pushback against
Because Google didn't exist?
There was pushback against Wikipedia. It was like, oh, Wikipedia is unreliable.
That's it.
Anyone can edit Wikipedia, so don't use Wikipedia as a source. Which really just means,
well, that was fair. Go to the original.
And it's kind of the same thing with ChatGPT. It's like, don't like go to the source that ChatGPT links you, and if that's a paper and it's academic and it's hosted on the right thing and it has the right provenance, then it's okay to use. I don't know. It'll be interesting to see how this all fares. There's a lot of backlash, but it was sort of like a lot of people in tech, I think, were getting like sort of whiplash from watching all of these arguments pile up. Someone put together a cool chart here of the good arguments and the bad arguments from the pro-AI crowd and the anti-AI crowd. So an example of a good argument around this from the pro-AI crowd would be AI is a powerful and capable tool. And then like a bad argument from the anti-AI crowd would be AI is useless in research / in general. But there were bad arguments that were put forth by pro-AI people. Something like you use data centers, like Hank uses data centers. And it's like, yes, YouTube is hosted on a data center.
So are you to write this comment?
Yes, but that's not the actual like data center that's required to host an online comment is wildly different than a massive Gen AI system, like cooking tons of tokens and actually setting the GPUs on fire, right? And then a good argument, the best argument from the anti-AI crowd said that AI usage in science communication reduces trust at least a little which is interesting. I mean, yeah, you do have to check these things, and we do see tons of examples of people actually leaking, AI phrases and weird AI. Like hallucinations into scientific research. There was that example of, there was some PDF that was scanned and there was a word in one column and a word in another column that got bled together when the document was imported, and then a whole bunch of scientific research started referencing this phrase that doesn't exist and just came from basically a hallucination or like a quirk of the optical character recognition. So anyway, they canceled my goat for using LLMs to search papers that he would need to read to make his videos. They want him to use Google search like a caveman in big 2026. That about
the crazy thing is, can you even turn off AI mode in Google now?
I think you can. I think you can. You could use DuckDuckGo. I don't think that has AI yet. We'll see. Anyway, Jeremiah Johnson says, I'm fascinated by Duck. Wait, is it really?
By Duck.
No. Wait,
swear,
you're serious?
Yeah, go to duck.ai.com. Or no, just duck.ai.
I like that's a good name. Duck AI, there you go.
They're using GPT 5.4 Nano.
There we go. Okay. So
unavoidable.
Wow, yeah. The market has spoken, I suppose. Yeah, what do people do? I imagine you can turn off AI mode somewhere in the settings. Or at least you could, get some sort of Chrome plugin that deletes that, like an ad blocker, if you really, really cared. But it seems like a lot of work at this point. Anyway,
this was interesting. Ryan Lowe over on X is sharing a heartbreaking essay by a mathematician last week for this most recent news drop. So this was before Noam Brown showed the recent breakthroughs by Astra. He said, "There's nothing I can do. There may be nothing you can do. I have no prescriptions, policy recommendations, or coherent call to action. I just want to be honest and open about my emotional and spiritual response. I want to feel seen. I want folks like me to feel seen. I need the architects of our new mathematical paradigm to look me in the eyes and acknowledge our shared humanity and soul before they deliver the coup de grace. I need most of all for us to understand what we are really doing."
The dark night of mathematics. Kerwin Hampshire, mathematician researcher from the University of Auckland, who recently authored the viral essay, studied mathematics. Interesting. It feels like I would be surprised if mathematical education goes away. It feels like a lot of these problems should be interesting to apply, but I understand that's a completely different discipline. It will be interesting to see what happens next, because there are more advanced problems, the Millennium Prize problems, P versus NP, Navier-Stokes, right? There are a number of problems that are still unsolved. What happens when they're all solved? Do we create new problems? Where do we go from there? Do we start applying them in different ways? What do you think, Tyler?
Yeah, I mean, obviously,
Got any advice for mathematicians?
I think so. So in this article, he says mathematicians are paid to solve
21-year-old
theorems.
Podcaster has advice for
Why not?
mathematicians.
Exactly. So he says mathematicians are paid to solve theorems, which I obviously I'm not in academia, but it seems like that it's kind of their job, but also it's you're in a university, right? It's to teaching.
Yeah, I mean, there's plenty of math professors that they sort of try and solve theorems, but also mostly teach and don't solve that many theorems.
Yeah, and also presumably if you can solve all these conjectures, there's going to be new questions that open up. This is the entire history of all science, right?
Yeah. It will be interesting to see the application of this stuff, because it's so abstract at this point, and it feels like it's everyone's saying okay, based on this, this is going to flood through material science and flood through chemistry and biology, and that would be awesome. Everyone would love, all of a sudden the electric cars have twice as much range because we solved some fundamental thing. It'll be interesting to see where the new bottlenecks are. There, of course, will be always. Math professors hate AI for one simple trick: just scale, I suppose. Let me tell you about Railway. Railway is the all-in-one intelligent cloud provider, user-favorite agent to deploy web apps, servers, databases, and more, while Railway automatically takes care of scaling, monitoring, and security. Boom. Boom.
What else is going on?
This I just like this Gary Marcus. He's really in the arena with this. There's this post.
It's a really good bit.
Which one?
The Gary Marcus bit.
It's not a bit. He really believes it.
No, but I think at some point he flipped into bit mode.
The pure LLM. Yeah, so he will always take issue with the idea of something being a pure LLM solving something. And who is it? Hassam says the LLM use a calculator, burn the impure. Bro, horses are very useful. This is likely not a pure horse. Pure horses still can't carry an entire family, and they don't have wheels. The goalposts are on a completely separate planet now. First, they came for the mathematicians, and that sucked because I was a mathematician and really did not expect that, not going to lie. It will be interesting to hear from Terrence Dow. He's been talking about how he uses AI in math and has been sort of a white-pilled voice every time I've heard him talk. So it will be interesting to see how he reacts to the latest round of advanced mathematics. What is left?
It's time.
What?
It's time to talk about the rise of one-person, $1 companies.
One person, $1 companies.
No, in the Wall Street Journal,
$1 million companies.
the rise of $1 million companies with just one employee.
Let me tell everyone about Console. Console builds AI agents that automate 70% of IT, HR, and finance support, giving employees instant resolution for access requests and password resets.
Wall Street Journal is saying AI tools make it easier for founders to get started alone, and many stay that way as they grow. Ben Broca launched a company last December that offers AI tools to entrepreneurs.
That name's familiar. We've had him on the show.
Already added 10,000 paying customers and is on track to bring in $10 million in revenue this year. One thing he hasn't added, any other employees. The 40-year-old is part of a class of entrepreneurs who are launching and often running new companies on their own. Artificial intelligence tools answer Broca's emails, help write and debug code, field requests from customers, sign up new subscribers, and grant refunds when issues arise. Broca relishes his ability to make whatever decisions he wants on his own, often from his sun-drenched Sausalito, California living room. I think compromises make lukewarm results, he said. Once upon a time, running a business of a certain size required a team. AI is turning that assumption upside down, and more aspiring entrepreneurs are going it alone. An analysis by the payments company Stripe, Tyler, look up Stripe, shows there are thousands of solo operators on the company's platform that are generating over $1 million in revenue, with their ranks doubling between 2023 and 2025.
That's pretty crazy. So this is on Pulsea, right?
No.
Oh, on Stripe.
Definitely not.
Okay.
This is just Stripe.
Okay.
The number of solo, I'm sure, I would be curious if Pulsea has any companies that do more than, $1,000.
I mean, you're looking at the
because to be honest,
marketing
like I actually do think success for Pulsea is like just making back even $1 more than you're spending on Pulsea, right? Because
there's a YouTuber who's been demoing different AI systems, Fable and Soul and Kimmy, and saying like, "Go make me money" is basically the only prompt, and he lets it cook for like a week, and he'll be on like a $200 a month subscription, see if it can make 6 cents, see if it can make $10, and he's getting closer every time. And he of course has to do some things, set up API keys and do little things, but it's an interesting experiment. Ben Awad. You should go check it out.
So the number of solo operators, according to Stripe, also crossing the $10 million threshold, nearly tripled in that same span. In the past, people without business contacts or particular savvy might not have known how to get their ideas off the ground, said Ernie Tedeschi, Stripe's chief economist. Now AI can be a built-in business partner.
Yeah, wait, how does Stripe know if you're a solo operator? Like if you're a podcaster and you set up a Stripe account to accept money from advertisers, you could be having $1 million move through there. But if you hire an editor or not, that doesn't necessarily show up in Stripe. So they must do some sort of polling and ask.
Yeah,
everyone.
I think in your account some point you say how many
Okay.
employees do you have.
Okay, and if you say, yeah, I just got one.
But
Interesting.
I guess one question I have with the data is like, what if you just set up your Stripe account and it's like, how many employees do you have? And you just
One,
put
and then you
just
wind up
me,
adding
and then
people,
you add a bunch
and you
of
don't
people.
go on update. Yeah, possible.
Yeah, because they don't have the payroll. I don't know how they would have visibility into payroll, especially like individual employees.
Yeah.
They do have a sense for how many people obviously are like added to your account, but sometimes it's like,
Oh,
well,
true.
does it count if you add your CPA?
Yeah.
You know.
And that's a contractor, not an employee. Yeah.
AI's ability to handle various administrative tasks makes it potentially useful for launching solo businesses in many fields, but the technology's ability to handle key tasks in tech, like coding, make that field a particular hotspot. Analyzing Census Bureau data, Bank of America's Institute economist Taylor Bowley found that among all industries, new business applications in the information sector
I've seen the biggest percentage increase, nearly 45% over the past year, yeah. At the same time, the rate of information sector applicants saying they plan to hire workers has experienced the sharpest decline of any measured industry. This census data set doesn't track solo-operated businesses, but the numbers broadly show in tech and beyond that applications are flat among businesses likely to hire workers, but generally rising elsewhere. Economists say that's a strong sign that solo operators are in the upswing. Wow, yeah, that chart is really up and to the left. New business formation. This is in the information sector in particular. I want to know more about what these people are doing, because at the same time we saw Levels.io talk about like the indie hacker sort of seeing declining revenues or more headwinds there because the little SaaS product that an indie hacker might build. I'm thinking of like those one-off websites like YouTube downloader 4K.com. It's just like a piece of software that people land on through SEO, or like something that is like an image background removal website, and it just does one thing and it does it pretty well and it scales to 6 figures or 7 figures. Those little sites are now getting sort of eaten by models and eaten by other people, and you might be able to vibe code your own, but at the same time, like they might have a long term. So
Tyler, update.
Okay, so they basically calculate the number of like solopreneurs based on how many people have like there's like special plugins or platforms that are directly for like the solopreneur. So they basically use that to like get a proxy of the general like percentage of solo people on Stripe.
on Stripe, oh, they have like a special flow for solopreneur. Interesting.
Yes.
Huh. Cool.
So they say that they're almost certainly underestimating the number.
Hey, Julian Weiser, I know him. Says the bar for getting started has never been lower, said Julian Weiser, who runs a San Francisco-based accelerator for solo founders working in tech. The accelerator, which offers founders seed money and mentorship in exchange for an equity stake, attracted 4,500 applicants for 10 slots made available in its most recent cycle, nearly 5 times the number it drew when it launched last May. Now, he's been growing this a lot, but that is staggering. A lot of people want to be solopreneurs. Going it alone with AI can still be surprisingly expensive. Broca said he was losing money on many customers' accounts while paying to access Anthropic's Claude to run his clients' requests. That AI company, as well as others charged based on usage. He has since switched to free open source models from China. Broca says he has raised $30 million from investors and at the same time has saved millions in salary since he hasn't needed a team of software engineers. Another risk, if it's easy for one entrepreneur to launch an AI-assisted business, copying them can be easy too. This creates anxiety for founders like Troy Johnston, who runs an AI-assisted business alone in Orlando, Florida. Everybody has the sword and we all have the ability to unsheath Excalibur now. Johnston, what a great quote for the journal. I love it. He's 40. He used AI to code an app that helps people get the most out of credit card benefits. It's interesting. Pick which card you want to use because you might have multiple cards, one that's good for dining, and you build an app for that. There's been a few apps that do that. The Points guy had a whole blog around it, a whole media company around it, still does, but interesting to sort of like, go and actually vibe code that. A lot of these things, it's like you could probably just use the models themselves for this. Just have a thread that says, hey, these are the cards I have. Go pull all of the data. When I'm about to buy something, let me know. But at the same time, there might be some value for something new with a deeper integration somewhere. The company makes around $3,000 a month in profit with no employees and continuing to grow. What a run for Troy Johnston.
Great story.
Who loves King Arthur related metaphors for business. What one person businesses will mean for the labor market remains to be seen. Polling has shown that Americans are worried that AI will replace jobs, and top economists are wrestling with that possibility too. But AI is also creating lots of new jobs, and the go-it-alone entrepreneurs show the technology can both open doors and limit employment opportunities. If everyone's hiring less, but you get four times more firms, what does that do to headcount? Said Rembrandt Koning, an associate professor at Harvard Business School who studies entrepreneurship. He co-authored a recent study that found that among 50,000 startups the researchers examined, those focused on AI tended to operate with 25% fewer employees. It's interesting because haven't we seen that the ramp data that said that AI adopting companies were hiring faster, but maybe they still operate lower operational headcount, but hiring faster because of hiring growth? There's like 3 different factors that are going on here, sort of mixing all together. Koning, the professor, also believes a soft hiring environment that has left some people mired in long job searches has encouraged more to try their hand at launching businesses. That makes sense. Some founders cite different motives. It's a perfect storm of post-pandemic burnout and a reevaluation of one's priorities, and also booming AI and a sense of what's possible, said Samir Ahmad, 39, who lives in Brenningsville, PA. 2 years ago, Ahmad decided to leave the corporate job he had worked at Verizon for almost 2 decades to start a solo coaching and consulting business. He had been seeing social media posts touting the ease and virtues of AI, which he used to chart a business plan and help with marketing. It was like my chief of staff, a second in command. The business ultimately petered out within months, though, and Ahmad is back to full-time corporate role with a utility company. For Claire Vaux, 41, AI helped turn her passing impulse into a business. She was working full-time as a tech executive when she tapped AI in late 2023 to help code an app that would help manage documentation and design for new products with customers ranging from financial services to healthcare firms. I was copying and pasting from ChatGPT, said Vaux, who lives in San Francisco. She put her app online for $1 a month. Wow, that is cheap. And within weeks,
I thought we didn't know how to make apps that cheap anymore.
Yeah. I mean, it is a subscription, at least, not one time. But she put it online for $1 a month, and within weeks, people downloaded it thousands of times. Nearly 3 years later, Vaux's company, which she ran solo for 9 months before hiring an engineer, now has 100,000 users and is on track to make 7 figures in profit this year. Wow. That's remarkable at $1 a month. That's crazy. AI handles the company's marketing, sales, and customer support. Well, AI is a shortcut. Vaux said her network and credibility in the industry were key. I think people over-index on how easy AI is and under-index on how much I did to get to this point, she said. Yeah. She's still...
Yeah, I just want to see... I want to see 5 companies that make more money from their business than they give Pulsia every month.
Yes. So Pulsia has some public dashboards for how much people are spending or something like that?
Yeah, they have a public dashboard. Let's see if I can find that again.
While you're doing that, let me tell you about Cisco. Critical infrastructure for the AI era unlocks seamless real-time experiences and new value with Cisco. And if Jordy's continuing to look, I'll also tell you about Public. Investing for those that take it seriously. They got stocks, options, bonds, crypto, treasuries, and more with great customer service.
Trying to find the dashboard. I was looking at the dashboard that was showing... Okay, I think Tyler found it. Thank you, Tyler. Yeah, so right now you can see all the different things that the companies on Pulsia are doing, or at least some of them. Right now, so far today... companies on Pulsia have spent $373.
Is that today?
On ads.
Today?
Yeah.
Oh, it's still morning.
So it's still morning, so we're pacing.
Okay.
We're only about, I don't know what time zone this is in. But yeah, the big question is like, is any of this stuff actually working, or is it more like kind of a video game, effectively?
Yeah.
That people just enjoy like watching the machine hum, but there's not really much happening.
I mean, that was the thing for Midjourney and Suno, I think, in many ways. Like, Midjourney, when it launched, people were like...
I mean, no.
Okay, hear me out.
Okay, I'll hear you out.
Okay, when Midjourney launched...
Get the steel man.
When Midjourney launched, people were like, this is going to take artists' jobs. And it was like, okay, so if that plays out, then I'm going to go to the MoMA, and there's going to be a show for someone that just prompted Midjourney, and the highest auction at Christie's is going to be some Midjourney artist, and that's not really what happened. Like, people aren't using Midjourney to make fine art, but people love Midjourney. Like, they love the activity of going on Midjourney and generating and prompting and getting an image back, and then maybe they send it to their friends, maybe they use it a little bit, but it's not exactly the same of like the process of becoming a fine artist. It's more like they're enjoying the process of just making. It's more like just having a guitar that you just like to practice and noodle on versus like actually being a touring artist. And so, like, that's certainly my experience with Suno. Is it's fun to try and make a song and then listen to it and then be like wrestling with the thing. And it's possible that could be the same activity for, like, okay, I'm going to go build an online business, see if I can get something out. But it's not really like a job. It's more of like an entertainment product.
Yeah.
I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, you could easily see it turning into like an Ender's Game scenario where it's like a game, and then it's like, oh, that was actually a real business you were starting, Ender. You know.
You offshored the last job. you sent all the labor overseas. You rolled up the entire HVAC industry. That wasn't a simulation. No, based on my steel, man, do you agree or do you still disagree?
No, I just think that you could use Midjourney to create a beautiful asset that you could get some enjoyment out of, or you could use it for your business or whatever you're doing.
Yeah.
Or to just create AI art.
Yeah.
And you could use Suno. Suno is just like deeply entertaining. You go on there, and in 5 seconds, you make a real song that sounds like it was recorded in a real studio.
Yeah. And there might be something to like, okay, it is fun to go and build a SaaS product. Like, it is fun to go like the game. Yeah. It's a game, right? I don't know, Tyler.
Okay, just on your example earlier of like the MoMA artists, like that's like the insane long tail of artists.
Yeah.
That's not like the average, you know, center of the curve artist that like.
Okay.
Midjourney like maybe is like doing a similar thing to what those people are producing.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know.
Yeah.
I would just be surprised if the, I don't know, maybe the way to put it is like, I'd be surprised if like the majority of Midjourney users are using the product as an artist career path, or an artist career path. Like, they're like, okay, I got my image, now I need to get it printed. Now I need to go do a small gallery show. Now I need to go talk to an auction house. Now I need to go and pitch it to a bunch of collectors and go through the process of being an artist. I think a lot of people are just like, cool, I got an image. Like, this was nice. Like, job's done. Now back to whatever else I was doing. Oh, like, I have some free time. I could go play a video game. I could go listen to music. I could go generate some images and have fun with that and see what those are like, and then just enjoy them myself, right? Yeah. I don't know. I think there's like a smaller, tighter loop with some of these services that might be, overridden. And I'm wondering if there might be one in the like design of business, like gamification of business world. I don't know. It does seem
Ben
like
has done a really good job positioning Pulsia and using some different methods to get attention. I have something I feel like I have a little bit against the whole thing because I just get spammed DMs from him. He doesn't follow me on X, but he spams me with messages asking for different things, which I just think is is somewhat entertaining if you're trying to run the anti-AI slop company, right?
Yeah. Is it? I thought it was pro-AI slop. I thought that was the whole name. No.
He's saying this is not slop.
Oh.
This is
because there is a world where you're like, it's slop, but it's good slop, and like it's fine. Like there's a lot of programmers that say like, yeah, the answer for slop code is more slop, and it's like it'll be fine. It's not a problem. You might not like the way the code is written, but it doesn't matter as long as it works. You might not like those artifacts in the AI image, but it's fine because it illustrated the point, just like you wanted. Anyway, Tyler, do you have something else?
Yeah, I was just gonna say slop is like a temporary term. Right?
Yeah.
At some point, the writing actually becomes good.
Yeah. The writing?
The output of the model.
Yeah, writing does seem behind a little bit.
But you can. It's like verifiable.
It's not verifiable.
No, people say it's good or bad.
Yeah, not fast enough. The loop isn't tight enough, and there's too many people that say it's good when it's bad.
You can make it.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe. It did get a lot better.
Still,
recently.
once a week,
It got a lot better.
someone prominent posts fully AI generated content.
Yeah,
and
what
just-
was happening with the cash? Like,
No, it just happens. It happens once a week. It's just an iron law of once a week. Someone really, really talented and smart posts something that is just entirely AI.
maybe we gotta rip it. We gotta try it just to feel something. Because maybe it's like a forbidden fruit, like the full just like go and prompt, like write me a blog post, thought leadership about business. That's the prompt. Copy paste, rip it.
Maybe it's
See-
also a strategy. You have something that's like you really want to get out, but it's a
Yeah.
little bit boring. And so you know that if you use AI
You're
to write
going to
it,
get
you'll
ratioed.
so much, you'll
More
get
people are
ratio.
gonna see
Way
it.
more people see it, and as long
This
as
is
the
the
first
4D
few
chess.
sentences
4D.
are kind of deliver the message you
Yeah,
want.
this is good. This is really good. Yeah, I think we got to do it. We'll test it on Tyler's account first, though.
Joe Weisenthal
Yeah, let's do it.
says,
Joe
I love all the
Weisenthal hour."
AI people who are like, nobody's prepared for what's coming. It's like, maybe just speak for yourself.
Joe's ready. Joe's ready. No, it is very funny that there's this whole meme of like no one knows what's coming. It's not priced in. It's like all anyone talks about ever. It's on the front page of the Wall Street Journal every day. Lots of people are talking about this.
And most people that say nobody's prepared for what's coming will not give you a really concrete.
like what
they
is
won't
coming
say, like,
exactly?
Like the last time we had
Here's the
this like
big post.
nobody's prepared for what's coming moment was what was the guy who was comparing AI to COVID back in March?
Was that Schumer? Matt Schumer?
Yeah.
So something big is coming.
Yeah, something
Yeah.
big is happening.
And it's like, yeah, something big is happening. Like the models are getting better. Like the math is getting solved, but like you can still go outside. Like,
Yeah.
At this point in 2020, unemployment had spiked to 10%, and like it was very much like you're a bold patriot if you're going outside. Like it was a crazy, crazy time.
Yeah.
And now it's like, yeah, there might be some softness in the job market. Like a hedge fund blew up. There's things that are happening, some big things.
But the
day-to-day is
hedge
mostly
fund
normal.
blew up from being a little too bullish. Like things maybe like they got the basically directionally correct, but got the timing wrong, right? Mike Isaac says, yeah, these MFs don't know how much I got stockpiled in my basement.
Yeah.
And Joe says, these MFs don't know that if a man has a why, he'll find his how. Well
very
said.
good. Yeah.
Well said.
Yeah, Buco Capital was having fun with Kevin Roos over at formerly New York Times, now Hard Fork Independent. I don't know. Did they take the IP? Are they still using
doubt
Hard
it.
Fork outside of NYT? I don't know. But Buco just says, weird comment for a guy writing a book on AGI. He is exactly and literally wrong. Everyone is pricing it in. Why do you think OpenAI and Anthropic are priced at $1 trillion? What nobody is pricing in is that besides coding and math, very few domains have embedded verification. And so, but Tyler over there thinks that you can formally verify whether or not the Odyssey is a good book in Lean or something.
Well, I think we can.
Yeah.
No,
I think we can
hey.
formally verify that Tyler's goated, right? A lot of people would say like
Yeah.
it's kind of like
That's
gray
true.
area, right? You
Yeah.
can't totally define what
Yeah.
it means to be the greatest of all time.
Yeah.
But
You've been working on that quantifying aura. As long as it's fully quantifiable, you'll be able to verify it. Yes. Andrew Curran says, shorten your timelines, friends. I've started this account to say this, and in many ways I've posted for the past 4 years, has been saying the same thing. Some of you are increasingly feel it. We passed the threshold in November. We are already inside the singularity. Lots of people are picking up the we're no longer in the foothills of the singularity. We're in the singularity now. Demis on stage at Google I/O just a couple months ago, saying we're in the foothills. Well, now we're on the mountain. If you followed this account for a long time, Andrew Curran says, I apologize for losing my mind a few times. Using GPT 3.5 and then Bing forced me to update all of this at once in one shot. And that was the correct time to update. Like talking to 3.5 and the first ChatGPT moment, Bing Sydney, it was if you updated on that, you did very, very well across everything. both with the growth in the labs and the growth in the data center build out and everything. Like that was the key moment.
Also, there was a moment in 2020, this was coming up over the weekend,
Yeah.
that somebody used GPT-3 to generate like a fully functional React app. Do you remember this?
Yes.
I forget what it was called. It was called like the something. The
Yeah.
But anyways, that in hindsight was like such a big moment.
Yeah.
But at the time, it got like 2,000 likes, and people were like, "Wow, this is really cool."
Yeah, but no one took it from there to be like, businesses will be spending hundreds of billions of dollars on this in just a few years.
Yeah.
Like, or I mean, a lot of people did, honestly.
Yeah.
Like tons of people across venture and private market, public markets.
A lot of people did, but way more people didn't update
Yeah.
any of their behavior.
Yeah, I guess. It's mind-blowing to me how few people realize that their lives and everything they know will change drastically in the near future. At this point, it should be pretty clear, says Jerry Turek. Yeah, wild times. Elon Musk says 100%. He's completely agreeing. Let me tell you about Codex. Codex is a powerful workspace for getting work done with AI agents. Whether you're writing code, analyzing data, creating content, or automating business workflows, Codex helps you move projects forward from start to finish. We got to look at this simulator. You're into racing simulators. I got to one up you with a train simulator. Look at this guy. This guy on Z80.me has built a full-scale train simulator controller. For the 3 years, I've been building a physical train simulator in my apartment modeled on the UK Class 80X passenger train. I've been trying to replicate the instruments and controls in the real cab as closely as possible. Look at this.
This is amazing.
In many cases, managing to acquire real components, and in others, building my own replicas. I've gone down rabbit holes for design, from custom CAN bus transceiver board and a variety of daughter boards to tie the simulator together to the actual panels, all of which on the consoles and instruments are mounted. I usually wait until I complete a component or step before I write a blog post, but over the last half year, I've instead made forward progress on several disparate aspects of the project. Therefore, this blog post will update as a status update on many of those aspects.
I'm feeling the acceleration, John.
This is such a cool DIY project. Imagine just sitting there driving train in the train simulator.
So one thing I'm not seeing is any type of visuals. So is he...
Like you mean the software that's driving the
yeah,
the train
to me, he only cares about the tactile experience of pushing the buttons, right? Like he's optimizing for actually feeling like he's in the
train. But no, there is a screen, and that screen is running a game that simulates a train. And the
Okay,
name of that
okay.
game, Train Simulator. You can get it at train-simulator.com. It's also on Steam. Yes, Train Simulator Classic is, I believe, the one that he's playing. But yeah, he's playing the full Train Simulator. AWS Sunflower? I don't know. Anyway, funny story. Bology is moving to Kazakhstan. This is huge for the Borat community. Absolutely huge for the Borat community. He
says,
posted a video.
this is Kazakhstan. Let's see.
This is a beautiful video. I have no doubt it's a beautiful place. It's a little bit crazy because his network school I thought of as sort of a like a startup incubator, a Y Combinator adjacent entity. He was in Singapore for a while, then Malaysia, and now maybe Kazakhstan. Did he actually move to Kazakhstan, or is he just like touring and vacationing there? Because what is the actual story?
Here's the news.
Okay,
He says,
give me
I'm pleased to announce that a memorandum of understanding has been signed between the Republic of Kazakhstan and Network School. Our new campus will become a haven for global techno-optimism with expedited visas, streamlined re-domiciliation, and active recruitment of talent. Excited for Balaji, excited for Kazakhstan, excited for Network School. Balaji is very smart and very entertaining, and I've enjoyed having him on the show. I do think it is very funny to be trying to recreate the incredible techno-optimism that many different sub-communities already have in the United States.
Yeah.
Where he effectively had all of his success at Coinbase and Andreessen Horowitz and I'm sure many other businesses. And I think it is, this whole chapter is deeply entertaining to me, the Kazakhstan chapter.
It's such a funny place. King in the castle, I love it. So quick tip for anyone who's planning to do sort of like the bi-coastal thing, San Francisco, Kazakhstan. You're in for like a 30-hour trip because there are no nonstop flights, I think. You have to connect in Istanbul, Frankfurt, Seoul, Doha, or Dubai. You're looking at 25 to 35 hours, depending on the layover. That is really, really far. The Miami thing was a tough pitch because, you know, so much activity is happening in New York, so much activity is happening in San Francisco. And it was still hard to get people to relocate, like great engineers. They come out the
No, I mean, this is just truly
full send.
the toughest possible sell. I think he's trying to, I think he's,
Weed out the weak.
I think in some ways he's been so successful that he wants a challenge that to him feels almost impossible, which is to convince the best and brightest from all over the world to move to Kazakhstan. It's I know so many, I mean, some major selection bias here, but I know a bunch of bright people that are not U.S. residents, and they would do anything to be able to be
In Kazakhstan?
not quite. Maybe now. But they would do anything to be able to have free access to America, to be able to set up shop here, to be able to build their business here, to be able to
be the king in the castle.
to be not even the king, but a pauper.
Just someone in the castle.
In the castle at all. And so, yeah, and I haven't, just.
We got to go. It's very clear.
Very clear.
It's very clear that we
that
got to
have
go, or at least we got
have
to
to
send
go.
Tyler.
I would go. It looks fun.
Pack your bags, buddy. See you in 30 hours when you land. Absolutely wild. Let me tell you about CrowdStrike. Your business is AI. Their business is securing it. CrowdStrike secures AI and stops breaches. Mark Zuckerberg was answering questions about his AI strategy on the latest Meta earnings call, and Ben Thompson wrote about what Meta's position is in AI, how they're grappling with a few things. There was a bunch of interesting points in this Stratechery update. One I wanted to call out was what Ben Thompson thought the best moment on the call was when an analyst asked him why the company can't just use other models. Like, why can't you just do the Apple thing? Do nothing, win. Like, partner with one of the labs, do some license agreement. If you need an image model, you get an image model. If you need a text model, you get a text model. If you need to speed up your programmers or your engineers, hire the best coding agent and negotiate with them, right? And here's how Mark Zuckerberg answered it. He said, I can take the open source question. Let's see. So basically the question is, do we think that because there are some open weight models that we can just rely on those? I mean, right now, the open source models are not as strong as the frontier models. Good point. So no is the basic answer. Meta needs to be on the frontier with their intelligence that they use, so they have to be there, according to him. He says, and then there's also just there's also just always the perpetual both policy debate and question around other companies' actions and whether that's a thing a company like Meta can rely on. So if you're using Chinese open source and there's some regulatory risk, it seems like that's sort of what he's getting at, is these things might not they might not be available all the time. And then also some of these companies, they might be open source for a few years and then go closed source and then start charging you an arm and a leg. So you don't want to be in a place where you become super dependent and then all of a sudden get hurt once you're super dependent on a particular product. So he says, and I think that's very tricky. So on both fronts, we believe we're going to be able to do better work, and we think that there's some risk in that reliance. I don't believe that's the right thing to do. So that felt like not a great answer to me in the sense that the Apple approach seems to be working so well. We'll talk to John Gruber about that in a few minutes. But then he goes on to explain some of the history of Meta, and it's very, very interesting. He says, I think that we're a company that if you look at Meta take a step back on this, a lot of people view the surface layer of we build some social media apps and we have an ad business. We are really a full stack technology company. We build our own data centers, our own infrastructure, our own chips, our own low-level software. When we got started, he says, my background in engineering, I wrote a lot of the systems code. A lot of the reason why Facebook worked was because it just worked, which is a crazy thing to say based on the history. But he makes a really good point. He says, like, it literally worked when other social networks did not work fast and efficiently. And I think we just have the ability to build things that can be more personalized, more optimized, more efficient. Some qualitative experiences are just not even possible for others to build because we go all the way down the stack. And it just seems to me pretty clear that having kind of sovereignty over building your own models is going to be an important part of that stack going forward, which is why it's important for Meta. And so that was very interesting that was a differentiator in the early days, that certain other competitor sites would just be slower. They wouldn't be able to launch new features quickly, and by vertically integrating all up and down the tech stack, they were able to do things very aggressively. This is the Reels thing. They built like 2 extra data centers to be able to do the Reels algorithm, because if they didn't have that compute capacity, they could not have launched a competitor to TikTok on any normal time frame, because it was actually a compute intensive project, not just a design. People see, oh, they just put a new button there and there's some videos. But it's like behind those videos is a massive recommender system that is very computationally intensive and stores a lot of data. And you can't just spin that up for 3 billion users or however many billions of users they have on a dime if you don't have the infrastructure, if you're not actually vertically integrated. So there's a whole bunch of other things where, in terms of personalization, understanding the user, delivering a really first-class experience, they sort of do need to bring it in-house, but investors are very upset about this. They're not very happy because Ben Thompson calls it the financial tail wagging the dog, and says that they have to sort of double spend right now. He makes a good point about this. They're double paying. The company right now is basically double paying for infrastructure without a clear path to monetization. And to make matters worse, its improving monetization story lost a bit of its luster. So they're both renting AI compute, paying a bunch of money for new researchers, and then also spending all the CapEx for the next data center. So all of that needs to come together in this moment to actually deliver. And the investors are starting to ask all these questions about what the strategy is. But Zuck's sticking with it. He's not backing down. But we will see.
Yeah, tough position to be in when capital markets don't have a ton of faith, and you just see that in the stock price, the company broadly, right? There's a lot of infighting, frustration around just how MSL is treated versus the rest of the company, which is paying for MSL. So Zuck is at war, with fighting a war with multiple fronts.
It is. It's a big war. Well,
he'll get through it though.
We'll dig into it more. I still think this Pierre Richelson tweet is so funny. Shower thought, why is no one doing outbound for pizza? Hey, this is Gigi from Gigi's Pizza calling. You ordered last week. We have a pepperoni pizza ready and could deliver it in 10 minutes. You hungry? Hilarious concept. Would be extremely annoying to have every possible low tier business that you do that you've bought anything from with spamming you. I mean, they basically do this with email awareness, like, hey, there's a Super Bowl coming. Like, do you want to place an order?
What if we made a law that said that restaurants could only call between 5:30 and 6 p.m.
when you're hungry?
And so you knew you'd be getting calls coming in, and you could kind of play them off each other. You get a pizza offer. You're like, look, I'm kind of interested in pizza, but I have an open conversation with the taqueria, and I need to wait to understand like what they can offer tonight. And I'll let you know.
Yeah.
Taqueria calls. They go 4 steak tacos, side of rice. You in?
Yeah.
And and then you get a price, you get a bid, you go back to the pizza, you
Yeah.
kind of play them off of each other a little bit, and then you go with
Yeah.
with what you're really feeling at the end of the day.
Do you know what it's called on Wall Street when you have multiple parties negotiating to sell a block of stock or debt or something like that, and you want to bring them all in really quickly? Let's say you're negotiating with Tyler, and I have extra information. I might have a buyer, and I want to jump in. Do you know what that's called? Barging your line. So like, oh yeah, I'm going to barge his line, jump in there, and then we'll be on like a three-way call basically. And you can do that when your phone system's set up with multiple lines. So you could potentially have, okay, you got Domino's on line 1, and then you got Pizza Hut on line 2, and you could be like, okay, I'm just going to put you as, all in
Conference
one
call time.
Let's debate. Let's get to the bottom price. Because that's basically what
Yeah.
you're doing. You're saying we're just going to hold an auction right here.
Yeah.
This might be the solution. I like this post. Explaining to my wife, explaining to my ape wife that I have to spend nights and weekends learning the bone so we don't end up in the permanent underclass. Is this from 2001 Space Odyssey?
Yep.
It's a good movie. Jordy, have you seen 2001 A Space Odyssey?
Yes.
You have?
Yeah.
No way.
Yeah, I remember that scene.
What? How did that happen? That's wild.
I think I was forced to watch it.
Oh yes, this old Leopold lore is coming back up. The author of this New York Times article definitely doesn't realize Leopold was being literal about the stars and galaxies. Asked in a 2004 podcast interview with Dwarkesh Patel what his goals were, he answered, "Eventually you are going to go to the stars. You are going to go to the galaxies," he added. Done right, there's a lot of money to be made. That was true for a while, at least while the fund was the center of the hottest trade on the planet. The fund made a return of more than 200% after fees. As anything tied to AI shot higher, one investor said. Yes, there was a funny line where Leopold's talking about buying galaxies, and some investors like the particular brand of private jet that's referred to as a galaxy, like the Galaxy 750 is the one that you want, and Leopold was like, no, I'm going to buy an actual galaxy.
Tay Kim says, who will play Leo and Ken in the movie? We know it's coming. The story is too juicy.
Okay,
Will it be
we
like
got to
Margin
play.
Call
We got to
and
play
The
this
Big
clip
Short?
of Ken Griffin because this came up on my For You page, and it's a wild story of when Ken Griffin had his darkest moment basically and lost a whopping 4% of the fund, something like that. Play this clip.
In 1994, I was in Switzerland. We'd had a rough year in 94. We lost about 4% of our capital in 94. It was one of our only losing years in the history of the firm. And I'm in Switzerland. I mean, it was a rough day. My lunch, I sat down at lunch. This person sits down. Oh, you're not John Griffin. No, I'm Ken Griffin. He goes, oh, I thought you were John Griffin from Fenchurch, another firm. He goes, I got to go. I'm like, great. I flew all the way to Switzerland for my lunch date to get up and leave the table. And then around 3 or 4 in the afternoon, I was with another Swiss banker, and we're in his office. His office was like almost the square footage of the stage. Beautiful furniture. He goes, do you mind if I smoke? He takes out a big cigar. He's smoking this cigar, and we're talking for about 45 minutes. Such a pity that such a bright young man so picked the wrong career. Like, well, that's the most graceful no I've gotten today. But you just have to tolerate, you're going to hear no a lot. But you need to become accustomed to having
Leopold's dad.
Yeah.
what you represent, what you stand for. Again, whether it's the people that you want to have work for you, or people that are trying to give you capital or customers, you need to get comfortable with the art of selling.
Great clip. It's so funny that someone was like, Ken Griffin, like, you're just in the wrong job. You should be,
Yeah.
I don't know.
This is not for you.
I wonder what that banker would have preferred Ken Griffin do. Like, did he have a prescription? Was he like, you should be
Course seller.
a hustler? I don't know, skier or something. Anyway, fun little trip down memory lane. We have John Gruber from Daring Fireball in the waiting room. Let's bring him in to the TBP and Ultra Dome for the second time. Welcome back to the show. John, how are you doing?
Good. How are you guys?
We're
Great to see
good.
you. How's your summer been?
Yeah.
Hot.
Hot. Has the tech news been overwhelming or underwhelming? this summer compared to previous summers?
Oh, I'd say much busier. I
Much
wouldn't say
busier?
overwhelming, but definitely busier.
It feels like I don't know. I mean, at least there's like the traditional news, which is like a company does a thing, there's a process, something launches. That has felt very light recently. But then there is like the meta drama of like situational awareness blowing up, and that stuff has been really, really crazy. Like the Hugging Face hack and like Mythos and all these different stories that are sort of like not planned in the same way of like there's a release cycle. We all got to talk about the thing that's like goes through the PR turn, you know?
Yes, I don't think that there was a marketing schedule for when they're going to have our AI broke out of a sandbox and attacked a major partner of ours during a testing run.
Well, it just depends if you believe in like the Truman Show thesis. So the simulation theory was like, now have the hedge fund explode. That will be the entertaining thing.
Well, the funny thing is there actually was people that were making the allegation that the hack was just marketing.
Yeah, I think they don't mind, right? Like I don't think there's a conspiracy in that it was fake or deliberate, but I do think there's a strong sense of, oh no, you mean that the news cycle for the next 24 hours is going to be about how scarily effective and intelligent our model is? I do think that there is a laughing all the way to the bank aspect of it, even though it wasn't deliberate.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah,
sure,
or like
sure.
a parent watching their kid and like plays sports and like the kid runs up like, a bunch of points on the other team and the coach has to talk to the parent and say like, hey, look, like your son is very good, but like he's got to pass the ball a bit more it's not really that sportsmanlike to, run up the score that crazy. He should focus on,
teamwork.
Yeah.
I heard, while we're on conspiracy theories, I heard a funny one that the person that's the most happy about situational awareness blowing up is potentially Apple, because they've been under all this pressure from memory. Situational awareness was, of course, very long memory. There's a flywheel there where the stock goes up, the memory gets more expensive. Now, I feel like the real take here is that, in fact, pumping up memory stocks is the best way to lower the price of memory because they will all fund CapEx and that will ultimately make Apple devices cheaper. But how do you think about the pressure that Apple's been under around component pricing, supply chain pricing, getting caught flat-footed versus just reacting to what's happening in the world?
It is extraordinary, and I really do think that to go the other way, I think Tim Cook's public remarks on it as being a once in 100-year flood situation, and that he's been looking at this market his entire career, and there is no comparison point.
Yeah.
And RAM in particular has always gone through these boom and bust cycles, and this is just a boom with a CapEx expenditure fueling it that is just such an extraordinary amount of money that it's like nothing else. And so I don't know that even though that Apple was caught flat-footed, it's like it's like the sort of situation you just can't prepare for, right? If you live on a floodplain, you take precautions and you build levees and you pay insurance that's based on that. If you don't live anywhere where there's ever been a flood before, you don't pay exorbitant amounts of money for flood insurance. You don't build levees. And if something happens where you still experience a flood, well, then it's a catastrophe. And catastrophe is a strong word, but Apple having to go through, I guess it was just a month ago, but it feels like, just speaking to how the summer is going, it feels like a while ago. But for them to come out and say, we're going to have to raise prices, and then a week later raise prices mid-cycle, Apple just does not do that. And for Apple, that's like a minor catastrophe. But I don't know what else they could do. I don't think there's any point where you could look back 18 months ago and say, oh, well, Apple should have really foreseen this and somehow done something different. What could they have done?
How much do you see the leasing program as a direct response to higher prices? Do you think the leasing program is something that was rolled out because the prices were raised so abruptly? Or is this something that they've always been sort of moving towards? This program was probably in the works 3 years ago, and Apple works on a long time cycle. And so this is just the natural arc of things, because they've had a refresh program where you could effectively subscribe for the pre-memory price spike, right?
Yeah. Yeah, they had the old iPhone upgrade program.
Yeah.
Which was just for iPhones. And I think they've seen it as a success. And so I think this was sort of a natural 2.0 way of and it's I mean, they're the ones who discontinued the old iPhone upgrade program the day that the new Apple upgrade program for all of their major products come out. I mean, you can even get I think you can even get AirPods on Apple upgrade. It's not just for, I don't know. I think so. But certainly all the Macs, all the iPads. So I think this was in the works. And I do think that they've been, I mean, the whole consumer market is moving towards, there's a lot of competition in paying over time. It's, and for a while, I think that it was sort of at the consumer level just locked into credit cards. You get a credit card, you buy something, and you pay the credit card company over time. And I think a lot of people just looked at that and thought, we're leaving money on the table because they're buying our products. It's not just Apple, but everybody is looking at that and thinking, well, this is crazy. They're charging these consumers 13 or 14% APR. Well, how do we get involved in that? And Apple specifically, they have the Apple Card, which is, I don't know, 9 years old. I mean, it's been a while. And they've had a program through that where if you buy an iPhone, you get 24 months of zero interest. I think the big change, though, it's all clearly about the fact that for so many people, I don't even want to pass judgment on them, but I think for some of them, they are mathematically disinclined to be able to extrapolate a monthly payment by the terms they're agreeing to and realize this is what you're going to pay over time.
Sure.
They just look at the monthly payment and they say, I can pay that. And they look at the lump sum payment of $1,200 for the iPhone they want. They say, I can't pay that.
Yeah.
But if I agree to this, I can get a new iPhone. I can walk out of the store with an iPhone 15 minutes from now. And so I think Apple just looked at that and thought, well, how can we offer something that's attractive? And the lease, I think the big difference with the lease is clearly that the monthly payment is even lower, than the buy over time of the old iPhone upgrade program. But in either case, it is good for the consumer. And I know some really smart people who are like, I'm doing this, because there's no interest on it. And if you do get a new iPhone every year, it is just an easy way you don't really lose anything. You're not paying any interest penalty, and you just have an easy system, and they mail you the box to send the old one back in every year. So I think it's just a way for Apple to sort of kneecap the number of people who were buying their iPhones with credit cards and paying interest penalties over time. So I think it's better for everybody.
It feels like I could bundle the leasing program, the MacBook Neo, into a Apple is going down market strategy. Do you think there are other plays that they will make to sort of calcify that strategy or really deliver on it? Or is this sort of you think it's a pretty mature strategy that they have?
I think it is incremental, let's say. These are not major moves. Even the MacBook Neo. I mean, I think the MacBook Neo is one of certainly the most interesting Mac product since the Apple Silicon in 2020. And it is that there were a couple of times where MacBook Airs dropped to $899 or something like that. But that $999 starting point had been the starting point for a base MacBook Air for, I don't know, at least 15 years. And so, when you consider inflation, the price has been coming down, but not down in the way that what's the entry model for an HP laptop or something like that, which is $400. So to drop the entry price, not just by like $100 or $200, but all the way down to $599. I guess it's up to $699 now with the price increases, but still that is significantly lower. And I think they've been doing the same thing. I think on the iPhone side, the switch from selling SE models, iPhone SE that only get updated every 3 or 4 years, to an annual schedule of having whatever the current number is, they stick an E at the end, 16E, 17E, there'll be an 18E next year. Those are really low prices for a brand new iPhone that has the latest silicon. I mean, it doesn't have the greatest camera, but so many people do not care about the camera. And that camera on the ePhones, it is fine. It's one camera on the back. It's a 1X camera that you can get 2X optical with the fancy sensor system that they have. It takes great photos. I mean, but it's the same sort of thinking where they're not gonna sell years old products as their, okay, fine, here's our affordable stuff. Here's brand new stuff. It's just less technically advanced silicon-wise, but it is brand new, right? The Neo is months old and it's at a record price. So they're incrementally moving it down market, but I think only insofar as they think that there's people with money to spend.
Yeah. Jordy?
What percentage of the employees and the team over at Apple do you think are excited, truly excited about AI and think that it can make the Apple ecosystem significantly better over time? So it feels like to me they're like it feels like to me that the whole company is like, like why is this happening to us? instead of saying like, hey, this is this like, useful set of tools that can make our software better, that can make our devices more magical to use.
It's a good question,
and the last thing I would say is like, I don't know anyone who's excited about AI that's saying like, I gotta go work at Apple because they have the best devices in the world. They have billions of users.
Biggest opportunity.
This is such an amazing opportunity. Like, if I want to work on consumer AI, I have to go work there. Like that's just, I don't know anyone like that.
Yeah, I think that's true. I don't either. But I don't know that it's a problem. And I do think clearly AI is where Apple was caught flat-footed. I don't see how else you could describe that, right? And I think as time goes on, looking back at the WWDC from 2 years ago, 2024, when they first announced Apple Intelligence and then announced the stuff that 8 months later was supposed to be rolling out, and they were like, you know what, we're going to have to postpone this by a year. And really, when they postponed it and said it'll be coming in the coming year, this is the coming year, right? And it still isn't really out. It's in the public betas this summer. It's coming out this fall. So they announced something that they were saying was going to come out to consumers, be in people's hands in the first half of 2025, and it's coming out at the end of 2026. And in this market, in the AI market, that is a big miss time-wise. Yeah. Now, 10 years from now, will people look back at this and say, wow, that was a huge gap of time? Probably not. And when people look at the new Siri AI that's in the OS 27 betas right now, is anybody who really is juiced into the whole AI system saying, wow, they've really taken the lead here in any way? No, absolutely not, right? This is very basic stuff. But it all does work. It is, and it's going to be the intro to LLM-based generative AI for hundreds of millions of Apple customers. Hundreds of millions of them have never used any of the stuff. However popular ChatGPT and Claude remain in the App Store, there are hundreds of millions of Apple users who've never used this. And, I've been using ChatGPT in particular for, years. I'm definitely not amongst my peers in the tech media. I use it less than most, but I'm pretty familiar with it. But I have to say, testing it this summer, ever since WWDC, for all of the basic bitch questions, the Siri AI is great, and just being able to squeeze the side of the phone is a great way to do it. And I honestly think it's like what triggered OpenAI to have the fiasco of a launch of the new desktop app for ChatGPT. Clearly, the biggest driver of that is their fear of missing out with Claude and Anthropic taking the lead. As if you just polled everybody who watches TBPN, who's in the lead right now, I think it's very clear. I mean, I think you'd be kind of nuts not to say Anthropic.
Well, yeah,
right?
it's verifiable
sort of,
based on
ARR.
revenue run rate.
Yeah.
So it shouldn't
and
really be
in just the state of things, right? You just lick your finger, put it in the air, and who's got the momentum, right? I think, and that's put OpenAI. They seem to have, and still, I think, are panicking over that. They really seem to have formed a sense of self, which was that they had already won. I think, like somewhere around 18 months ago or so, that whole company had we've won this already. We're just mopping up the chessboard at this point. And now they've found out that they're in a long-term race and they're not. So that's clearly the biggest driver, is that they looked at the way Anthropic has bundled up Claude and Claude Code and said, we need to do something more like that. But I absolutely think part of it is that the Siri AI app that Apple is rolling out, which visually, you just look at it, it looks like ChatGPT, right? It's black and gray, and at a glance, if I showed it to you in May before WWDC, and I just quick showed you a screenshot of it, you'd say, oh yeah, that's ChatGPT. No, it's Siri AI. And I think that in the Apple world, we call it Sherlocking, because there was the Sherlock thing 20 years ago where there was Apple had an app called Sherlock, and some third-party developers made a much better version called Watson, and then the new version of Sherlock came out. Sherlock was Apple's first. Oh. Then there was a third-party thing
funny.
called
I've heard
Watson.
the story the other way.
I always get it flipped. Yeah, thank you. This is helpful.
Right. No, and the third-party one was called Watson, and it was way cooler. And then the next version of Sherlock was like Watson. And it was sort of, it's like tough luck to the outsider, but it's like everybody looked at Watson and was like, oh, this is the way Sherlock should be. This should, and Apple looked at it and thought, this is the way Sherlock should be. And, Apple had this stance that was, they quite outspoken about it. Like Craig Federighi, I think it was with Joanna Stern last year, said that Apple did not see chatbots as a good interface to AI.
That's right.
Yeah. Yeah, and they're just like, what, it is a great interface to AI, so why don't we make one too? And I sort of think like ChatGPT sees that for non-advanced usage, nobody's going to go to these third-party ones when Siri can answer that. So no, is it exciting, and is it where the people who want to work at the frontier want to work? Do they want to work at Apple? No. I mean, why would you? At this, they don't really have a product that's even aiming for that. But Siri AI isn't aiming for that. It's just aiming for, the type of trivia questions that people just ask as like a one-off, two-off chat session. And it does a fantastic job. And it has these integrations with stuff like if you use Apple Mail, if you use iMessage, it finds stuff in your iMessages just like they promised. It really does work. All of the stuff that's in my Apple Notes, I ask questions about it, and it just finds the answer to it. It's really, really useful. Is this impressive to people who've been following AI for the last 3-4 years? Not at all. But this is the Apple way, is take something that is super exciting, super cutting edge, and boil it down to its basic bitch core and put it in a way, a usable interface that normal people will be able to understand and give it to everybody.
Okay, let's play it out a bit further, because I'm curious where you imagine Siri AI goes. I've always felt similar to you in that there's so many questions that you don't need, incredible advanced intelligence. You just need a simple answer to something, and I can see a lot of that flowing through Siri. But where does this product go over time? Is this something, because if you play it out far enough and the product gets enough traction, then at what point is Apple competing not just with other LLM providers, but competing with Google itself? And then they say like, oh, we're the private, we're for privacy and all these things. But then at what point do they say, hey, we're this is costing us a lot of money to run. We gotta start running ads. And then at that point, like, do we do targeted ads or non-targeted ads, or do they try to take the moral high ground and say we're better than ads, even though they run ads in maps and they run ads in the App Store and all these things? So play it out for me. How does this go? Let's assume that it's a success to the degree that they keep investing in it for many, many years to come.
The ad question is interesting because obviously Apple never had to or never decided to make a search engine for Safari. And they just sat on, you know what, we'll just have Google as the default, and Google will pay us for the traffic acquisition. And we all know from various court cases that however much they'd like to keep it under the radar, it's like $25 billion a year now. And it had been in that range, it's been a lot of money for a lot of time. And for a while, in the early era of Tim Cook's services narrative, even though it was a lower number 10 years ago, it was a huge percentage of Apple's quote unquote services. So Apple's, Tim Cook said to Wall Street, our growth area is services, and their services number kept going up, but it was really for a long while just the Google traffic stuff. Well, why would Google keep paying this much money? Because when people would search, you see the Google results, and what does Google show them? Ads, right? And there's a very simple, this is you see how this works for everybody. There's a sort of flywheel. Google gets all this traffic from the terrific audience, the demographically attractive Apple user audience, and is obviously very profitable at showing ads and search results. They pay a significant portion of that to Apple to have it as the default in Safari, and everybody just keeps searching in Google, and everybody can kind of bitch about the ads that have gone into the search results, but people still use Google. What happens with Siri where there are no ads? Why, how does that financial relationship work with Apple and Google for the back end? Like, who's paying for it? That's a real mystery. It's one of those questions where when Apple just reported results at the end of last week, every time I never listen because I find those calls they're like 45 minutes long and they feel like 45 hours to me. So I skim the transcript and I'm like, I would love if somebody could ask, and I don't think that they would answer, but if there's any kind of clue about how that.
It's so interesting to me because Google is like, we're going to help Apple because we want to try to commoditize the LLM space because we're behind and our business is threatened for the first time because a billion people are using effectively another search engine, an answer engine, right? They're using ChatGPT, they're using some Gemini, they're using some Claude, but obviously by and large that usage is going somewhere else besides Google. And so Google makes the call to support Apple and Apple's effort to try to commoditize the sort of assistant category. But then through that, if you assume that partnership is going to be successful, then what happens to their existing Apple partnership? And then what happens to search over time? And then even with a demographic, even with a group of customers, like iPhone customers, there's a lot of people that are not going to sign up and say, I'll spend another $20 a month on AI with Apple, right? People already complain about the twice a month you see a charge from Apple, and it's like, what's that charge? And so there's the big question to me is Apple right now to me is positioning the entire company around being against ads and really pushing privacy. I see random out of home ads for Safari, and it's finally private browsing. That is already counterpositioned against Google, who is now their partner. And then eventually, I just think if you want to serve this product to the entire Apple user base, it will probably make sense to do ads. Then at that point, do they dance with Google again and use the Google Ads network? But it's so hard to see where this actually goes.
They are, but Apple is dipping its toes into ads, right? The App Store is ground zero for this, when you search in the App Store, they have a big ad in the top spot now. And sometimes if you're searching for, let's say, Signal, and like Signal is the example I always go to because they don't pay, they don't seem to pay. But if Signal, the Signal group or whatever the organization is behind Signal, pays for an ad on the keyword Signal, you can buy your own name as the top result, and then you get an ad, and then you get the second spot too, because that's where you naturally show up. But there's, or you search for Roblox, or something that kids play, and there's sometimes there's gambling apps that show up in number one. It's crazy. And now they've added a second spot in the third spot. So for most things you search for in the App Store, the top spot is a paid ad, often paid for by the app you're searching for, but they're still paying. Now they're double dipping because Apple's taking the commission from the App Store transactions and making you pay to get the top spot. The second spot is the top natural search result, and the third spot is another paid ad now. And I think that's off-brand for Apple. I really do. I think it is, I always go back to HBO, which it just was. When I was a kid, it just seemed too good to be true that you could watch movies and there were no commercials. And it's what's the catch? Well, you got to get your parents to spend, whatever, $10 at the time in the 80s, $10 a month extra on the cable bill. But it seemed like such an amazingly good bill. Good deal. And that's, always been sort of the Apple thing. It's MacBooks cost more than other laptops and iPhones cost more than other iPhones. What do you get? Well, part of the experience is you don't get inundated with ads. And I go back to the Safari thing with Google search. It has been such a good deal for Apple. It is $20 to $25 billion in cash that just comes in. It is almost no margin. You can say that you could subtract.
I mean, almost 100% margin.
Keeping almost right at this. I mean, what's the salaries of the team that makes Safari and WebKit compared to $25 billion a year? Right. It is as close to 100% margin as anybody could reasonably get. It is year after year, and it doesn't look like Apple is serving you the ads. So you're just Joe Schmo Apple customer. You use Safari on your iPhone because it's the default browser. You search, you see ads. It looks like Google is showing you the ads, but it's like Apple gets all this money and their hands are free. That really can't happen with Siri, right? They could partner with Google
that's
to have Google sell the ads, but it's coming through the Siri. It would be, in theory, in the future, it would be coming through the Siri interface. I don't think they'll ever do it. I don't think they'll ever put ads in Siri. And I think, if anything, they'll put a cap on the number of queries you can do that need the server.
Also,
and I think,
but then the question is
Apple.
The question is, you just play it out, and how much of a threat? Is Google creating an even bigger monster than the one they were trying to, keep down in ChatGPT, right? If you help make Siri a massive success, and there's no ads, and I have gone a year ago, I didn't use ChatGPT for really any product-based searches. I just still thought that Google was just objectively better if I was looking up a car or a piece of clothing or anything like that. And more and more of those kind of searches, I've just ended up in Chat because they have better images now, and I can be like, hey, I'm looking for this exact type of product. Just go find it for me. Find me the cheapest version of it. And so you would expect that Apple's maybe 2 years-ish behind, or maybe 18 months behind in terms of AI capabilities. But I could imagine 18 months from now, Apple becomes pretty good at finding you a product that you want, and you have Apple Pay built in. And it's they have your address, and
That is crazy,
and so you potentially just fully cut Google out in a way that doesn't even necessarily, that becomes a cost center for Apple and sort of cannibalizes Google's search revenue, but doesn't even necessarily get Apple that much out of it itself. And then like you were saying with on the App Store, it does. You're right in that searching for an app and then being flooded with a bunch of what feels like spam on an Apple surface area. The company that's meant to be dedicated to just giving you the most magical product experiences, it doesn't feel Apple at all searching on the App Store anymore, because Apple knows exactly the app I'm looking for, and yet they're serving me junk, right? And it's usually
And the Apple monetization for the App Store should just be the commission they charge on all the transactions through the App Store, right? And that's controversial enough and has been the source of antitrust and all sorts of complaints. But at least in terms of, well, how do you profit from the App Store? The story was very simple. They take 30 to 15% of every transaction, and that should be good enough, right? Because you're paying, and if at some level as a consumer, you have to assume that you're paying at least a little bit more for everything you buy through the App Store because Apple is taking that commission. And to double dip and show, it'd be like HBO, you pay extra money and in the middle of the movie, they have one commercial interruption, right? And it's like with the World Cup where, they still don't have commercial breaks, but they have hydration breaks.
Yeah.
And right? And
so
it's like
funny.
that's sort of what it feels like with the App Store showing you these ads when you search. And it's like, I'm just trying to find a freaking thing. How about you just fix search? And their search still kind of sucks. So, Jordy, I think your big question is what's in it for Google, right? Why is Google helping Apple here? And I think it is from Google's perspective, and I don't think anybody knows. I really don't think anybody knows where any of this is going to be 4 years from now, right? It's so fast moving. But I think Google would rather dance with Apple, who they know, and they know what Apple culturally wants to do. And I don't think there's any kind of, Apple is doing AI research. They have AI teams, and they're, and I think Apple would obviously love to handle as much of this on their own as they could. But is anybody seriously afraid that 4 years from now, Apple is going to be the producer of the leading edge models, the frontier models? Nobody. And I don't think anybody really thinks there's even that they've got a path to that or that they're even trying for it. So I think Google is comfortable working with them where, in a way that they would just prefer to kneecap OpenAI and Anthropic. And if Apple was fishing around for a partner, we need somebody who knows their shit to give us an LLM backend so that Siri is actually useful. Yeah. And I think Google was willing to cut them a sweetheart deal to say, let's do this. And if it entrenches Siri for a decade to come as something that 1 billion iPhone users around the world are relying on, we can handle that, right? We know Apple, we're not worried. That's not gonna, we'll still figure out a way that we'll make money. We'll still have everybody who's not using Apple products. But a world where that 2 year ago deal with OpenAI, which now makes you laugh with the deterioration, to say the least, between Apple and OpenAI at a corporate level. But if that had continued and it was OpenAI who was partnering with Apple to do this in a way, and again, the original deal 2 years ago had ChatGPT branding in the answers, and it was like
the whole thing is so funny because you have Google being like, okay, we need to help Apple because we need to help Apple attack ChatGPT because ChatGPT is threatening us. But if Apple's really successful, then they'll end up threatening our core business. And Apple's like, well, we also want to try to kneecap ChatGPT because they're now building devices. But then Google and Apple's relationship is just headed on a pretty interesting path, and I can't imagine. I think both companies will look back and be like, man, you remember those days where I could just give you tens of billions of dollars and we could just be friends, and then you play it all out and it doesn't seem as friendly.
Yeah, and I think basically it comes down to Google is very comfortable playing in a world where the technology is commodity level, and that they can, because of their scale, they can not just succeed, but thrive in a commodity world, right? Is the actual computer science behind Google search significantly better than what Microsoft has with Bing? No, not really. It's just that the scale is there on Google's side, and so it's perpetuating. And I think that if AI works out that way, there was somebody at Google years ago who, Google invented all of this technology that we now consider AI, all the LLM stuff. But there was a paper that came out of Google where one of the scientists argued that there is no moat around this technology, right? No one company is really going to own this. And I think it's an open question whether that's true or not, right? Like the superintelligence hypothesis is that if somebody gets to the breakthrough of superintelligence first, then that superintelligence will accelerate their AI at a pace that nobody else can keep up with and no one will ever be able to catch. I don't think that's where it's going, and I don't really, and it just goes back to what we were talking about half an hour ago with the Hugging Face thing and ChatGPT, and it's like, oh, coincident, and this is what makes people roll their eyes and think it's a marketing stunt, is then, 3 or 4 days later, Anthropic came out with, well, we went back and looked at our logs, and we found Claude broke into somebody 4 months ago. We didn't even know it, and it's, they're even Steven, and I think, I just think ultimately Google looks at this as, let's just shut those guys up. Let's let this bubble burst. We'll still be here. They won't. And Apple will certainly still be here. Apple's the one big company with no exposure in this bubble.
Yeah. That's true.
And I think Apple's bet is back to there is no moat here. And if they don't own this technology, that it's fine.
Yeah.
I kind of think it's shaking out that way, at least for Apple's business.
Yeah. Well,
last question, and you can answer in 30 seconds. Do you think Apple will make an acquisition of an AI company? Could be an acqui-hire or product, but I'm thinking more acqui-hire, north of $10 billion.
$10 million. Whoa.
No.
I thought you were going to say north of $100 million.
No.
Yeah, one. Okay, then let's bring it down. $1 billion. Because there's just not that many. There's not that many great teams, to be honest, that you could get for less than.
I mean, 10. They bought Siri. That was $100.
And I was kind of expecting them to try to pick up Poke, which Cognition just bought. Poke was like a really nicely designed assistant that worked in iMessage, and that felt like a no-brainer for them to just bring in some talent that is excited about AI that's already working in the Apple ecosystem.
Yeah.
I would look at it on the silicon side, and I think because I think that as this gets commodified, I think that something like the PA Semi acquisition that led to Apple Silicon, that's who Apple, I suspect, is hunting for, is somebody who has like a breakthrough spitball idea. And again, at this point, $1 billion probably isn't that much. So something in that range. But I would think hardware, something
if you have
that Apple can do for silicon.
Yeah, if you have really optimized silicon serving, lagging models that are a year or two old, like the inference cost can actually be pretty low, and then that changes all the calculations about ads that you were talking about. So thank you so much for jumping on the show.
And ultimately, I think it's why Apple's staying out of the CapEx race for building out these data centers.
They'll just wait.
The idea of why are we going to spend all this incredible sums of money, all of our free cash flow to build data centers that are going to be completely technically outdated 5 years from now?
Yeah. Well, I want to have you back to have a great debate about Electron versus native apps. We got to go through all this, get to the bottom of what's going on with these AI labs. They have such powerful coding agents, and yet they can't ship native code, apparently. We'll get to the bottom of that next time you're on the show. But thank you so much for taking the time to come chat with us. Have a great rest of your summer. And
yeah, you too.
Stay cool out there.
Thanks so much.
Yeah.
We'll talk to you soon. Goodbye.
Cheers.
Let me tell you about Figma. Agents meet the canvas. Your AI agents can now create and modify your Figma files with design system context. And up next, we have Shaun Maguire and Isaiah Taylor. Isaiah,
dynamic duo.
Atomics. 2 guests, third, fourth time on the show. How's it going? What's up, guys?
Tell us the news.
Look at you.
Nuclear reactor.
We got to get the eagle scream every time. This is our intro at this point. So exactly. There we go.
What happened, guys? What happened?
$1 billion Series B.
Nuclear's back, baby.
With the wind up.
Crazy moment. Where should we start? Isaiah, you want to kick it off?
Yeah, I mean, I'm right here in the reactor hall right now with the hardware. This is where I like to spend my time. And one thing that was just amazing about Shaun's partnership in getting to know this company is he just wanted to know about the hardware. That's really my favorite type of investor. They're like, show me the stuff. Like, are you actually building things? And I think that's what's special about this company is that we just build and we build fast. And it's been really great to meet the Sequoia team and get to know everybody.
And this facility, you're no longer purely in the Gundo. You've expanded. Where is this facility now?
So this is our Orangeville, Utah site.
Utah.
It's our first nuclear site. Yep.
Okay. And what are the short, medium, long-term goals with this site and beyond? Is this still an R&D site, or is this going to be generating power? When do you start building the factory the machine that builds the machine?
Yeah, so we've already made a tiny bit of nuclear power here. We became the first startup in history to make nuclear power about a month ago. And but it's still a test unit. And what we're building toward is something that we call a gigasite. These are massive campuses of reactors, and we think they'll make the cheapest energy on Earth. And so that's what we're working toward here. And it starts right here in Utah for sure. This is a great place to serve data centers, AI factories, then eventually all of the industrial stack that has been falling behind in the United States that depends on energy. Aluminum electrolysis, steel, all of the different input metals to making everything in the physical world starts on our gigasite. So that's what's coming next, and that's really what this raise is going to help support.
Massive. Shaun, I have to assume you've met every nuclear startup. There's a lot of them, but you've got enough time in the day to meet them all. I don't know. I doubt. There's so many different applications of the technology.
There's
and
a lot of
different
good
efforts.
ones. It's not only Valor, but there's only one Isaiah. That's for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, yeah. So talk about what
Sure.
drew you to the company, and this is this is not a Series A check. This is $1 billion.
No, it's a big check. This is a big boy check here. This is an ultra high conviction investment. Look, I'm a former physicist. I have a PhD in physics. I've loved nuclear since I was a little kid. I was hoping that, I read Richard Rhodes's Manhattan Project book when I was 17. And I've kind of been waiting for there to be an opportunity in nuclear. Candidly, I didn't think it was going to happen. I thought we were just going to go solar battery or solar plus some other storage mechanism future, just given how regulated nuclear was. It just didn't seem like it'd be possible to get to scale. And then two things happened. One, power became important in the West again, which is pretty amazing. Second, this administration, but I gotta say this, I think a very bipartisan thing. Mm-hmm. Both the Democrats and Republicans, as power became a bottleneck, have been pushing for more favorable, nuclear regulation, and it's starting to happen. So even 3 years ago, I just think the regulatory side was too scary for me. So we've had kind of regulatory breakthroughs with this next generation of founders that are, really trying to bring in this nuclear future. But for me with Isaiah, there were a few things. One, just when you get to know this guy, the level of intensity is psychopathic. And I mean this in the best of sense, but the day he went critical in this reactor he's in, first of all, he thought he was going to go critical the day before. It ended up being the next day. So he was up kind of all night, 2 nights in a row. Then that night that he went critical, they didn't go critical on 9 p.m. or something. There was a candidate he wanted to close whose partner was in San Francisco. So the day he went critical after not sleeping for 2 days, he got on an airplane that night to fly to San Francisco to have drinks with, a candidate and the guy's wife. I don't know what time he went to sleep. And then the next day he's back in, I think it was Utah, maybe Los Angeles. But getting to know Isaiah, the level of intensity is just absolutely incredible, and candidly the only person I don't know many people that have this level of intensity. And then just one more thing, something that I learned, a mistake I made in the space industry was, Elon started off trying to build the Falcon 1, which was a pretty simple rocket relative to what NASA could do in the 80s, 90s. It was like a 1960s rocket, or maybe even earlier. And there were all these other companies that were telling these advanced science stories. We're going to use carbon fiber, vehicle frames to have, less mass, or we're going to 3D print the rocket.
Yep.
So other people were trying to do this very advanced technology to have better mass ratios, et cetera. And Elon was like, I'm going to do the simplest thing possible, put up one satellite, get that revenue, and then go from there to something that's, Falcon 9, pretty damn hard, but still not state of the art compared to what NASA had done in, say, the 90s. And then from there, go to what's truly state of the art, reusability. And then from there, go to Starship, which is just completely pushing the limit. And Isaiah understands this. He's one of the only founders I've ever met ever in any industry that really understands the power of starting with the simplest unit where you can actually scale and win. and then climbing from there. So anyways, Isaiah should do the rest of the talking.
That was great.
Yeah, I think that's one thing that Shaun and I just connected on very early is like lots of investors trying to understand the nuclear space want to know what's special about this technology, what's really unique about this technology. They want to find this sort of like IP technical edge where you're doing some special sauce that nobody else is doing. And my approach is like, no, like we want this reactor to be as simple as we possibly can. Like if we could just staple this thing together from IKEA, then this would be $1 trillion company much faster. And so there's like two philosophies that we use in building the reactor is we try to buy things that are completely off the shelf, like 100% commodity, or we make it ourselves. And there's very few things in between, right? There's very few places where we have a supply chain that's dependent upon the existing nuclear industry. Because if you think about it, we're trying to go 100 times faster than the nuclear industry's ever gone before. And so if we're plugging too deeply into the existing network, it's not going to work that well. So we want to use standard off-the-shelf things and make things ourselves where we can't buy something off the shelf. And by necessity, that means the design is extremely, extremely simple. The more complexity you add to it, the harder it is to do one of those two options and the harder it is to scale. So, I think especially in nuclear, this is a difficult thing because it's full of very smart people. It's full of physics people and PhDs and people who have spent their life doing complex analysis. And they actually want something that is a little bit complicated. It's like, it's an ego thing to design something that is like complicated and looks very sophisticated. And we have just really rooted that out of our minds at Valor. Like we work extremely hard to root that mentality out. Like it's our preference that this thing is so simple that somebody with a nuclear PhD looks at it as like, that's like a toy. And it's like great because people make toys in like the millions, right? They just like stamp them out. And that's exactly what we want to do. And then the other aspect that's super unique here is just the safety of the overall architecture lends itself to this approach. If you build a really, really safe reactor, you're also by necessity building a really safe reactor because most of the engineering complexity in nuclear comes from safety engineering. If you look at a modern pressurized water reactor plant, they're very complicated and 90% of the complexity comes from trying to make it safe. So the approach that we've taken instead is design it to be safe from the physics, and you can actually just delete a huge amount of the bill of materials, just like completely remove it. It doesn't even exist in our bomb. So those are the philosophies we've taken here. And like, listen, I can't give enough credit to Shaun in particular, and also the rest of the
No.
Sequoia
This is all
team.
Isaiah. This guy's building nuclear reactors. I'm wiring money. Like, get out of here. I got to give a couple shout outs, though. I got to shout out Palmer Luckey, who gave me the hat tip that this is a special company. Thank you, Palmer. Hat tip to Liam Corrigan, newest investor at Sequoia, who was my wingman here, physics guy, Rhodes Scholar, Olympic gold medalist rower, 6'5" Chad. Total Chad. And Max Ukroprina, who's on the team at Valor, who is someone I've known since I was a kid, who for years was trying to get me to come meet this company. I was like, dude, nuclear's too hard. Regulatory's not favorable. And anyways, Max, I look stupid. Good job.
Isaiah, have there been talent wars in nuclear? You're flying on such an important day to go meet someone, which many founders will have done, but that's felt like maybe urgent. How intense has the competition for talent been this round? I imagine will give you a lot of advantages, just having more firepower to continue compounding a great team. But walk us through the last maybe 2 years in the category.
Yeah, look, I view my job essentially as trying to get the most talented people in the world to come and build this mission with me. There are no blockers in front of us. Like we have a regulatory environment that's ready to move. We have an enormous demand signal. We have customers that want to buy. We have an architecture that's very simple and very scalable. And now we have a lot of capital in the bank. And the blocker on us becoming the 10, 50, $100 trillion company that makes most of the world's energy is the smartest people in the world coming and joining us in this mission. So I spend an enormous amount of my time doing that. I actually would say that our primary talent competition is in other places where you can move the needle on a global scale that need incredibly talented engineers. I don't see it as sort of like, okay, other nuclear companies. It's more like, what are the other companies that are genuinely going to change the course of humanity in the next 50 years? And like, those are the people that I'm fighting for.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
Lessons from
I'll just say-
Oh, sorry.
If
Please.
I can say one thing on that, something I've seen from Isaiah that is very rare, he is looking for just ultra talented generalists, and he tests people like crazy. And like real world tests, like, hey, I'm going to be in, someone says like, hey, I want to interview. And he says, okay, I'm in Texas, like meet me here tomorrow. And if they get to Texas, then they have a shot. And if they don't make it to Texas, then they're weeded out. It's just not having that level of like commitment. And anyways, there are not many people that understand you have to kind of design the hiring process to find the people that select into a crazy mission.
High agency, yeah.
Yeah,
And that is
you're
a lesson
revealing
from SpaceX.
you're revealing the secrets here, Shaun. Yeah,
I know.
Now the next three are going to show up to the meeting, and I'll have to figure out some other way to weed them out. But yeah, it's very true.
If they show up, it's still a good.
It's true. It's just still a great sign.
Lessons from SpaceX. One of the interesting.
Yeah, I
stories-
can imagine. Yeah, sorry, I got a dentist appointment in Utah, of all places. I got to get out there. It's like this,
because
people
you're
being like,
leaving
yeah, I got a
the
dentist
company.
appointment.
I have to take 3 commercial flights, and drive 3 hours to get to my dentist appointment.
One of the interesting SpaceX stories is residual capability. They build all this launch capacity. They have maybe too much launch capacity. You get Starlink, amazing business, becomes a telecom company. Probably not in the first pitch deck, Shaun, you'd know. But is there a world where there's a residual capability from what you're building here, where you're using the electrons that you're generating yourself, or do you see there's just like so much demand that that's something that's is very, very unlikely to happen?
Yeah, I mean, look, you know, and you and I have talked about this before. Like, I think Valor actually started. I grew up watching Elon, right?
Yeah.
I read everything that I could about the Falcon 1 and the Falcon 9, and saw this very simple path that they call it flight rate. I think at SpaceX we call it tick rate. Tick rate is basically how quickly can you go from cores turning on. Each one. It's like a look back average metric of the time between new cores turning on. And it is predictive of who's going to win, who's going to have the lowest cost and the highest capacity and all these different things. And we actually started with the idea of that excess capacity and being able to make the world's commodities, right?
Yep.
And I think that the AI thing happening as quickly as it did and power prices changing so dramatically where people will sign a $200 PPA is like, okay, obvious that we should sell electrons.
Yep.
But no question is our long-term vision to actually have the cheapest energy on Earth and to use it for our own things. I mean, we see a vision of the world where steel is just way cheaper than it is today. Aluminum is way cheaper than it is today. The manipulation of matter is a lot cheaper because you have robotics hooked up to AI that's doing matter manipulation and vision, and all these things just take energy. And so it'll be interesting to see like where we decide to play in the stack. I think like we want to be in the business of turning on thousands of reactors primarily. But there will be a couple of like massive markets that we attach to that that we can just make at a competitive price that no one else in the world can cut.
And also, like the nature of the AI boom is that you need a lot of energy in a single place, which is perfectly suited for you, as opposed to if we were in some boom where we need everyone in their pocket needs twice as much energy, you would have to maybe transform into another source of energy or do something else in the supply chain. Shaun, did you have something?
I agree.
I concur.
Violent agreement.
Fantastic. Well, thank you so much.
Awesome.
Yeah, I was just gonna say that's the AI thing like perfectly matches gigasites, right? Like the idea is nuclear is a thing that benefits from extreme scale.
Yeah.
Like if you could build 1,000 nuclear reactors right next to each other, you should. Like you will get the cheapest energy anywhere in the universe if you do that. And so AI is like the perfect thing to do with that first. But we will do many interesting things with it over the next century.
Well, congratulations.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks
Excited for you guys to partner up.
We'll talk
Dynamic
to you soon.
duo.
These tag
Great to see
teams
you.
are fun. Peace.
Goodbye.
All right,
Cheers.
Bye.
Let me tell you about MongoDB. What's the only thing faster than the AI market? Your business on MongoDB. Don't just build AI, own the data platform that powers it. We're going back-to-back energy rounds with another back-to-back $1 billion round. We have Justin Lopez from Base Power Company. Justin, how you doing?
Good. How you doing? Good to see you.
Give us the news. What happened today?
raised a bunch of money and
Not just a capital raise, though. Break it down. But first, for anyone that's been living under a factory, reintroduce base power, what you're working on, why it's important, and then I want to talk about the news under the headline from today.
Yeah, so welcome to Factory One. Good to see you guys. Thanks for having me on. Today we're announcing 3 different things. Number 1, launch of the factory that I'm sitting in right now. It's behind me, that builds batteries. Number 2 is $1 billion raise at $13 billion post-money valuation. And the third thing is Base Core, is our fully custom designed, engineered, installed, manufactured here in Texas product. What we do is we design batteries, we manufacture them here, we install them on homes, and then we own and operate them as a distributed fleet, distributed power plant. That's the business today.
Incredible. Talk about the decision to not announce the factory or talk about the factory very much until it was actually producing products.
Yeah, it's like I put this on X, but a lot of factories get announced with a bunch of people in suits and hard hats shoveling like an ounce of dirt, and that's cool. It's groundbreaking. That's exciting and all that. But like, factories are meant to make stuff, and we wanted to make stuff beforehand. So we're doing that today. We're just getting the line ramped up. The station behind me is starting to build some modules. You'll see some come through as we talk here. But look, you want to have the real deal ready before you talk about it.
That's right. And when did you guys actually break ground on this site? Because I imagine
the site was already here. So this is actually the old printing press of the Austin American Statesman building. We started building the equipment behind me about 5 months ago. So it hasn't been a super long time. And we started warehousing here about 8 months ago. Previously, we had a smaller facility just north of here in Austin. But we're live and running now.
Very, very cool. Talk about the state of the business overall. How the market in Texas is evolving. What people can expect from Base over the next couple of years in terms of new markets and things like that.
Yeah. So as I mentioned, look, we install batteries on homes. Turns out there's a lot of homes, not just in Texas. So we recently launched our Chicago market, and we've also launched, I think it's 6 or 7 utility partnerships now here throughout the state of Texas. You'll see us announce a few new states and a few new utility partners, hopefully by the end of this year, as things get signed and under contract. And it allows us to go into more states. Here in Texas has got a partially deregulated market, which means that we can go to market without having a direct relationship with the utility. In other states like California, where I'm originally from, in Michigan, those are regulated states, so they require deals with utilities. So we have 2 go-to-market motions, regulated and deregulated. Both work in various different states in the country. And look, the goal is to have a battery on every home in the U.S. and eventually internationally. We've started here in Texas. We're in all the major markets now, also in Chicago, but we'll be launching new ones here pretty soon.
All right. If somebody's a homeowner in Chicago or Austin or Texas broadly, give us the elevator pitch for why they should install Base.
Look, so we make your power more affordable, more reliable. So if you're in a place like Houston or Dallas where you can choose your power provider, you sign up with us. We sell you electricity every month at a very affordable rate. We also put a battery on your home that is only typically a few $100s, depending on exactly where you live. That provides you backup protection if the grid goes out, and also supports the grid when the grid's up and running. That's how we monetize and how we make money, is that grid support function. And so it's affordable, reliable power. That's the simple pitch.
Is there an element of price savings from drawing power from the grid at low rates, storing it, and then reusing it in the house when rates would be higher, and just sort of load balancing at the house level?
That's exactly right. That's basically how it works.
Okay.
So we charge the battery when energy is abundant and available, when there's not a lot of stress on the grid, and then we discharge it into the home. And sometimes if we decide to spin the meter backwards, push back onto the grid, when there's some stress on the grid, or when there's peak demand times. That typically happens, in the dead of winter and in the height of summers.
Okay. What about throughout the day, throughout the week? Like, when are typical peak load times? Because during the day it's hot, people are running air conditioning, but at the same time, that might be when solar panels are collecting energy. So, what is the actual reality of like a typical grid, the Austin grid? Does this vary grid to grid? What is the differences and the nuances of load balancing?
Yeah, so You're exactly right. Basically, what you care about is the difference between available capacity or supply and the amount of demand.
Yeah.
And so here in Texas and in many places, especially in the South where it's quite hot in the summer, you typically have these peak times in the summer, at least in the early evening. So kind of like 4 to 6 p.m., 5 p.m., 7 p.m., where the sun is setting. So supply is coming offline, but people are coming home, plugging in their EVs, turning on their air conditioners, et cetera.
Got it.
And so that's really where the supply and demand meets. Then in the winter here in Texas and in many places in the north, you have these early morning peaks. Basically, people are waking up using more electricity. Your electric heaters are coming on, and they're on throughout the night, but the sun hasn't risen yet. And so batteries help fill those gaps. That's at the macro level. And then at the more micro level, they're also able to shave peaks off of the lines on the grid. So you might have enough capacity in aggregate in bulk, but one part of Houston or Dallas or Chicago may need support. And so because we've got tens of thousands of these systems out there, we can say, look, in this neighborhood, we need some support. We're going to discharge just in that neighborhood. And that's the beauty of having a high volume of systems.
I see a lot of robots of different types moving around in the background. Where are you guys getting the most leverage from robotics? I can imagine as you started the facility, it can make sense to figure out the sort of process using a lot of your human talent. But where are you guys getting the most leverage, and how automated can this become over time? Can it become fully lights out factory? Is that even something to aim for? But what's your view on all that?
Yeah, robotics is a great place, but it doesn't have a place for everything. There are certain tasks that do not make sense to automate, or at least not as a starting point. And then there are other tasks that do. So like what you see behind me, you've got the robots that are driving through the tunnel, and that tunnel is placing these stacks of battery cells that are created also by robots outside of the frame here. That is a great thing to automate because it's relatively heavy, relatively repetitive, and requires a lot of fine precision. Then there are other tasks, loading in certain components, testing certain things that require a little bit more finesse, a little bit more dexterity, that are pretty hard to automate. Not impossible, but harder. And so we've said, look, we're not going to automate those as a starting point. We're going to focus on the things that are, either dangerous or hard to do repeatably or are quality concerns, and then we'll automate more and more over time. So I'd say it's a phase-in approach. We're starting with what makes sense to automate, and we'll likely trend towards more automation. But the fundamental thing is trying to not do tasks that you don't need to do in the first place. You delete the task, then you optimize it, and then you automate it.
What's the state of blackouts, brownouts, blackout prevention? That feels like a huge selling point. You're selling a sense of security, a sense of comfort during a winter blackout or summer. But at the same time, how often are they actually happening? It seems like a known problem. Grids and energy providers have been working on this at a higher level than you. So is the problem still broad? How big is the problem of just losing power outright? And how big of a factor is that for you in the sales process?
So it's huge in the sales process, right? People want to have more affordable and more reliable power.
Yeah.
The reliability is different from place to place. So typically in coastal regions, so if we think of the Texas coast, Florida, the East Coast, et cetera, where you have a lot of hurricanes, you typically have more power outages.
Okay.
Also in more rural areas. So if you're at the end of a line, basically any break in that line all the way up to the substation is going to cause you to have an outage. And so if you have more line in front of you, basically, you have typically lower reliability.
Yeah.
It totally varies though. So very, very, very rarely is there an outage because there's not enough power. Most outages occur because of a weather event, because a tree falls onto a power line, et cetera, because of a storm. But outages are rising generally across the country. There are places where they're getting better.
Okay.
It's a factor in the sales process, but if I'm honest with you, the way we think about this is more about affordability first, reliability as a benefit of having this system on the grid, and it adds reliability to the whole system, right? It's not just your home. Obviously, it'll back up your home if and when the grid goes out. But it's more about adding reliability and capacity to the whole system so you can have more load and more EVs, more homes, more data centers, et cetera, on the grid.
Got it.
Absolutely crushing.
My last question is, what does it actually take to expand to a new market? I mean, I want one of these in California, but it seems like you're growing the business and the factory, and like there's immense scale, $1 billion raised, $2.5 billion raised, and yet geographically it feels like a little small. It feels tight. Sometimes you have companies that are, we're available in every market all over the globe. We'll ship our thing everywhere, and we're a tiny company. You're sort of the opposite, very focused. What does it take to bring a new state, new city online? Why the measured approach to actual go-to-market?
Yeah, so I'll start with the latter point, which is the sort of measured approach. I'll remind you that Texas is larger than most.
Yeah, that's true. Good point.
We've got more homes and more electricity load than many large countries that you've heard of in Europe and elsewhere.
Okay, fair, fair.
So Texas is a big place, but regardless, I'd say the geographical tightness is a feature, not a bug.
Okay. Of course.
The reason for that is like, not only do we have a factory behind me that produces these things, but more importantly, we have a factory in the field. We've got hundreds of people out in the field installing these things.
Okay.
And we've got trucks and crews and tooling and all this other stuff. And so having geographic density is very helpful from an efficiency standpoint. Now, to answer your question though, on how do you expand to new markets, there are, oversimplifying here, but there's basically two types of markets. There's ones like Texas, where you can choose your power provider. Places in Texas, not all of Texas. And then there are markets like you have in California where, for the most part, especially in residences, you cannot choose your power provider. If you live in Northern California, PG&E is the only game in town. If you live in Southern California, it's SoCal Edison or LIDWP or other utilities. And so in the deregulated markets, we can essentially go there and start the business. And there's nothing really stopping us except for a bunch of regulatory hoop jumping to do and setting up of a warehouse and hiring people and all that, which is its own challenge. In the regulated market, it's basically getting a deal with the utility. It's a B2B sales motion where we go to utility and say, hey, we offer megawatts as a service. We'll go install these batteries that we've built behind me. We'll put them on homes in your service territory. You can control them, operate them, and use them to add flexible capacity to the grid. And so that's a matter of, B2B sales, long sales cycles, and working with both the regulators and the utilities in that state to go into those states. So I'll say we'll launch a few new regulated utility opportunities over the next few months here. And then in the deregulated part, we'll also launch a few new states. But as I said, like, it wouldn't be surprising to me if we're only in, 10, 15, 20 states over the next few years, just because, again, the geographical density is so helpful for us.
Yeah. And of course, like you only have so much manufacturing capacity. You have to load balance your own business across your salespeople, your installers, your manufacturing capacity, your supply chain, all of this stuff. That makes a ton of sense. Well, congratulations on the progress, and thank you so much for coming on and sharing it with us.
Love seeing you guys cook.
Yeah, amazing work.
Awesome.
And thanks for the factory demo.
Yeah, that is remarkable.
Of course.
I know. We'll come by next time we're in town.
Yeah, that'd be awesome. We'll talk to you soon.
Awesome. Cheers,
Have a good
Justin.
one.
See ya.
Goodbye. Let me tell you about the New York Stock Exchange. Want to change the world? Raise capital at the New York Stock Exchange.
Just do it, folks.
I think we have to issue sort of like a warning to the viewer. The next guest is building something truly horrific. So avert your eyes if you are a scaredy cat, because our next guest has built something terrifying. Beau Gaston, welcome to the show. How are you doing?
Great. How about you guys?
We're doing well. Talk to us about what you're building. Tell us about the journey, the goal, the mission. I want to get into the aesthetics, everything, but also the applications.
Yeah, sure. So the full timeline, at a very high level. We'll start about 6 years ago. A paper comes out of MIT where a guy, Ben Katz, made this quasi-direct drive actuator quite cheap. I think it's about $700. These are kind of like the building block of these humanoid robots. And a large reason that you're starting to see a lot of these pop up, that he open sourced the design as well. So I'd seen back then, it kind of looked like it was going to become possible to build humanoids a few years in the future that are not like only affordable to a huge lab, right? So around 2022, I start to take on this design that you see in the background. What I wanted to do with it was really make a robot first for myself. And what I would like to do with the robot is, not do the dishes or fold my laundry.
You want this thing to do the dishes?
No. He's saying he doesn't care about a robot that will do the.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that'll
seems
be
like
the
he
next
wants
software update.
Sure.
I wouldn't try that quite yet.
Okay.
My kind of thesis is it's going to be more useful to have something that's stronger than you at first, and maybe you could sacrifice some precision and intelligence, right?
Sure.
And running a chainsaw. I get that people have thought like, wow, this is crazy to give a robot a chainsaw. It's, a bit scary, but I mean, what's really scary is operating a chainsaw as a human. So I kind of looked at that, which is something I'm well familiar with living out here in the woods. So my kind of thought is this is a good tool to start with. I mean, running a saw is the most dangerous job in the U.S. It's 130 per 100,000 workers per year. It's 30 times more dangerous than the next most dangerous job.
Wow.
And I mean, you could imagine not only is a chainsaw dangerous as a tool, but what trees are you cutting down? Ones that are damaged near power lines, ones that are next to a fire break and a wildfire. So it's just a preposterous kind of situation. So looking at what robotics can do.
The use case makes total sense.
Yeah.
I'm curious to get into a couple questions. We should start with, I think what everyone's wondering is why make it look like, a demon from Hades. Especially for some of these like disaster use cases. I was thinking, I've been in situations where I've never been like really, really, really close to a wildfire, but I've been close enough where the sun gets a little bit, blocked and it's dark and a little hazy, and if I saw one of these things, kind of walking out of the smoke, I'd be a little freaked out, and I think a lot of people might feel that way, but yeah. So talk through the decision making on making it look demonic, and then I really want to understand like the actual functionality of the form, which we can get to.
Yeah, sure. So I will say, the rescue stuff also was kind of propagated by the virality a little bit. That's definitely, I was not aiming to pick you up out of a burning building, like a hero in a movie. Though I would point out if that did happen, like, if someone's saving you, I'm not going to probably be too picky. And if it's
don't
this
look
thing,
a gift centaur in the mouth.
Yeah, exactly.
you just don't do it.
Yeah, but it's interesting with the anthropomorphic stuff on humanoid robots. Like, I think it's actually really disarming, and people kind of aren't understanding what's really going on under the skin, which you can see a little bit here.
Yeah.
But I don't know, like, have you guys ever used a drill press?
Yeah.
Okay, so you kind of know they're dangerous, and the workpiece could fly out of it, and they got a lot of torque. So imagine if someone hooked 20 drill presses up, series parallel, all together, and then used basically some arcane knowledge of machine learning to make it balance and walk. This is pretty much what a humanoid robot actually is, right? That's around the same power that you're seeing on leg actuators on most humanoids today.
We see those
where you're
videos
going,
where they go crazy.
Where you're going is basically like a humanoid itself looks tame, but in reality, it's potentially incredibly dangerous to be around.
So it's better to let people know. You're putting like caution tape on it effectively.
100%.
You're telling the user, hey, this thing is a chainsaw. It's going to be doing work in a dangerous environment. You should be triggered to say, hey, I got to step back because this is serious business.
Exactly. Like, I don't know if you guys have ever been on a big work site or in a factory, and first time you go in there, maybe you're kind of putting your back to the wall and like you're a little overwhelmed, and that's kind of the right attitude to take when you're around something that can knock your head off. So from my perspective, I made one in gray as well, and you could kind of imagine it actually kind of looks like, a little bit like a gray goat, you might want to go pet it. Yeah.
So do you think you'll end up redesigning it? Because if you want to just show that at least like the head, because if you want to just show that it's dangerous, you could just have it maybe a speaker or a light that says stay 50
caution
feet away.
tape or,
There's
hazard
a lot of way to do
orange.
it besides the horns, even though clearly it sounds like
worked.
you just wanted to make this. Sounds like you live in the woods. Sounds like you want a few
Sure.
of these patrolling around your house.
Yeah, I think the other thing about humanoid robots, we all kind of know that they're not purely like a perfect productivity maximizer device, right? They have to be emotive and cool, and we've wanted them for 80 years or something, and been dreaming of this stuff. And I'd say kind of like a car, no one buys a car because it's the perfect mobility blob with no personality that is exactly as safe as you want. Maybe a few people do, but humanoid robots, like cars, the ones that people really like, have to have their own personality a little bit. So I think trying to redesign it to be okay, maybe the optimal safety would be to have a giant yellow siren on the top, but it's just not as exciting. So we got to keep it interesting, right?
Yeah, I get it, and I'm sure there's people out there that want to cut down some trees that genuinely would prefer this form factor than something more tame. Talk about for the types of environments that you're imagining the robot in. Why 4 legs is better than 1? I can imagine just weight.
1 leg?
Sorry, two.
1 leg is really tough.
1 leg.
But imagine a
the
humanoid
final
that's
boss.
1 leg.
Peg leg. The pirate robot is next. Yeah.
No, 4 legs versus 2 legs.
Yeah.
I imagine if you want to be able to actually manipulate something like a saw, you want to be able to having the stability, but also the terrain.
Yeah, you don't want to be on wheels.
And I think there's been enough videos now of the robot dogs kind of running around crazier terrain that show that 4 legs is superior than two. And
I'm all in on centaurs. Let's hear it though.
All right. Yeah. I mean, bipeds are tough. You have to move the center of gravity up for the whole bot, right? Because you're putting the pack up in the human chest, or I have it in the horse body. You're getting actuators closer to the ground because their ankles are actuated. So if you think about walking around in the forest, you're putting electronics really close to the ground, and if you have a linear actuator, then a moving shaft right on the ground. Whereas this thing, the closest actuator is nearly 3 feet off the ground. The way I'm driving the knee, it's easier. This is not a huge project. I think another kind of misconception from the viral explosions, we're some huge stealth startup that's popping up and these things are going to go knocking door to door. But no, this is more of a passion project. So doing a biped today is really tough. You're not going to see all but the best people doing. And even then, I'll point out, there's of course a lot of curation for what you see with bipeds from anyone. I think everyone kind of knows that they're pretty tough to get stable. And I think another question is, why not do tracks or wheels? That's pretty tough in robotics too, because if you're trying to keep all 4 wheels on the ground, not like these the ones you see out of China that are wheels and a dog, but just wheels, then you're going to have some suspension, which is kind of the enemy of robotics, is having these unknown spring forces and stuff like that. And tracks are just really heavy and really actually not all that stable for the size that they are. If you think about a little tracked square driving around the forest, if you're on hard packed ground, it's actually could still be a little tippy. So 4 legs works pretty well.
Yeah.
Have you gotten any death threats since the viral moment?
Seems like the wrong person to threaten. He's got a robot army at his disposal.
Well, I imagine some people might think now is the right moment before you have 100 of these on your property. The real crazy ones.
I guess though the few people that were offended by the design are Christian, so that peaceful people. So fortunately, I've had people say I should stop, or that it's someone sent me an email today that said my company is now owned by God, who will save me and stuff like that. But no, nothing too crazy. The more surprising reach outs have been police departments. That is what I wouldn't have thought would have happened. But
reaching out to partner with you or arrest you?
Yeah, to ask if it could be used for public safety. So,
okay, yeah.
No, I do.
That
if you've ever been at an event where a bunch of police cavalry
or
have
on
been, and
horses,
and then there's just
People just dissipate. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because there's something about being around a large horse where like it just doesn't.
No, I was going to say the
human
feces.
Okay.
That gets.
I hadn't even thought about that.
Yeah.
I just think for riot control, the horse is just like, it won't quite, it's not like you're going to get hit by a car, but there's a natural human reaction to sort of just moving out of the way.
The chat wants to know about the pogo humanoid. A
there is
on
one.
a pogo stick.
There is one.
There is one.
Yeah. There's at least one. Look, if you search,
That
there's
is
an academic
potentially even a
paper.
scarier format where the robot can jump 30 feet in the air and it's just.
Pogo stick. It's a psycho clown on it. Talk to me about controlling this thing. I imagine you're not doing full autonomous control, heavy teleoperation, but because you have multiple cameras, so are you looking at a screen with multiple camera feeds and then controlling with like an Xbox controller? What is the process? And then I imagine that as you go forward towards controlling a chainsaw, that's a little bit harder to control with a Xbox controller. So will you have gloves, VR? How are you thinking about that?
I got a solution for that.
Okay, let's see it.
Let's see if we could see. No one's seen this chainsaw, so I guess you guys could
there we go. Yeah.
Do it on your show, but there we go. So this chainsaw is 2 degree of freedom, kind of like let's see if I can line it up a little better. You can kind of see what's going on.
Yeah.
Oh, I got to go this way. My thing's mirrored.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's something I thought about. So, it's think about like this, like you can split robotics into moving around and doing something with the end effector.
Yep.
And the good thing about a quadruped is, you could kind of park it, and then the hips have enough mobility where you could kind of control it almost like it's an excavator if you've ever been in one of those. So it's a little bit more intuitive to do than trying to do something like dynamically, like you see, people with VR goggles and gloves to control a humanoid that has hands or a biped and all that. That's, again, like way outside what I'm able to accomplish. So you could think about it more like you're driving a big car that keeps his hips square to the ground, and then the top half kind of acts more like it's an excavator.
Yeah.
Where you're kind of controlling it on 2 planes.
Do you think there's more of a consumer market for robotic horses? Because there's a lot of people out there that love horses, but horses are quite expensive to maintain. And I imagine if you made a robotic horse that you could control with an Xbox controller and sit on it, there would be some consumer market for it.
Like a riding one. There was a demo that came out of Japan, I think. Maybe we shouldn't be surprised that they're on the cutting edge of making that sort of thing. But yeah, I don't know. Would you buy one?
I think I would potentially get one for my daughter. Yeah.
Oh, not to like commute in?
The robo horse commuter galloping to work, if you could get it up to like 40 miles an hour, would be quite appealing to me. But maybe more just for fun use case early on. So something to consider. You need to make the head a lot prettier, though, I think, to really catch on.
Like an anglerfish head, you're thinking?
I'm thinking more like a normal horse.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I haven't thought about that.
Well, thank you so much for coming on the show and breaking it down for us. Good luck with wherever this project goes. Would love to stay in touch.
Keep us updated.
Keep us updated. Keep going.
Absolutely. I will say when John showed me the website, I said, this is clearly somebody just messing around that vibe coded a site.
I love that it's a real thing.
But
you're
it's amazing to see.
Yeah, it's going to be amazing to see where this goes. Congratulations and thank you so much. We'll talk to you soon.
Have a good one.
Cheers, Beau.
Up next, we have Arel from Intology. He's the co-founder, and we're talking about RSI, recursive self-improvement. Is it here? It might be. We'll get his take. Ron, how are you doing?
I'm doing well. Thanks for having me on, guys.
Thanks for hopping on. First time on the show. Why don't you introduce yourself and the company a little bit?
Yeah, of course. So my name is Ron. I'm the co-founder of Intology. At Intology, our mission is to automate scientific discovery, and we're starting with AI R&D. So today we have some pretty exciting results to talk about regarding automated post-training of other language models, and lots more to discuss. So glad to be on.
Yeah. Awesome. How would you characterize the progress, the announcement? Because people can get sort of lost in benchmarks. Are you 20% on this thing, 99% on that thing? Like qualitatively, where do you see the technology today?
Yeah, absolutely. So fundamentally, we believe that automating discovery is a domain agnostic problem. What that means is that the structure of discovery problems is pretty similar across domains in the sense of, no matter what problem you're looking at, like, drug discovery or materials discovery, even like improving language models, there's always going to be some sort of process of proposing an experiment, getting feedback from that experiment, learning from that experiment, and then using that information to propose the next set and continuing until you make the discovery. So it's a, great question because, we think about the problem on that axis of how do we build and scale systems to these problems in which the evaluations and experiments become more expensive, more difficult, harder to access. And post-training, for example, represents a problem space where experiments are pretty expensive, they can be quite noisy, and they take a long time, right? So if you're trying to build an automated research system that, develops the next state-of-the-art, 70 trillion parameter model or whatever, you can't really imagine a system training 15,000 models until it discovers the best one because training is expensive. So, you have to think about how do you run efficient experiments? How do you gain information from those experiments better? And I think that, today we're showing kind of a closer step in that direction because, in the past we were doing things like kernel optimization, like MLE bench style problems, and now post-training where, obviously it's more expensive and takes longer.
On the cost side, this does sound expensive. If you want to hammer a bunch of different experiments, what has been your approach? Just sort of suck it up and use venture capital dollars, or partner with companies and labs that have big compute allocations, they have the resources, have them sort of front the cost, or is there another way to solve it? Because scale seems very important here, and yet your whole job feels like burning compute.
Yeah, so definitely a little bit of both. Okay. I would say at the beginning, it was a lot of burning venture capital money. And now we have partners and systems in place to run experiments that, don't just burn money for no reason. We have our own cluster. We have our own infrastructure that efficiently utilizes those resources. So we're at a place where we're not just like throwing money at the wall for no reason. So obviously it's an unsolved problem. We will always continue to work on making our system better at this. But I would say it's a mixture of having some great compute partners, spending a lot of time on our infrastructure, even before we start running experiments. And now we're at a place where, I feel comfortable throwing, hundreds of thousands of dollars at the wall if we feel like the system can actually make progress.
Gary Marcus, he says that it doesn't count if it's not a pure LLM, that AI is only making progress in verifiable domains. You need a lean output that's fully verifiable. How optimistic are you? And I'm somewhat sympathetic to it because it does actually seem like we are moving much faster in verifiable domains like math than unverifiable domains like, I don't know, coming up with the script for the next great movie, or joke writing, a comedy writing, or even some of the bio stuff that's maybe verifiable but over a multi-year process of going through FDA applications and testing in vitro, testing in mice and in monkeys and humans. Like there's just things that the verification loop isn't just run some lean really quickly and see if it checks out, right? So what do you see the future of transferring all the amazing learnings and ability for AI to make discoveries in ML and computer science and math to anything that's a little bit less verifiable?
Yeah, for sure. So I think that it really just comes down to, so we focus on verifiable domains, but I think it really just comes down to, how much you can actually query the evaluator, right? So back to that example of, post-training the next large state-of-the-art model. You could argue that, that system could, in theory, train the whole model, get the ground truth feedback, see how it did, but that's not fully realistic for every run, right? So it would have to do some sort of experimentation with either its own rewards or, not full ground truth rewards before making that progress. I think it's, my take is I really think it's just about building systems that almost like wean off the requirement of the evaluator. So for example, if you're building these kinds of systems for training small models, no problem. You train an infinite amount of models and you find the best one. But yeah, it's almost like as you scale on this axis of difficulty, it's almost like as a forcing function of a compute availability or cost, you start having to think like, okay, well now I can't actually have my system train the whole model every time, or I can't run an entire clinical trial every time I want to test a drug. It's almost like a nature of the research direction. And so I guess that I don't really think it's that different of a problem. I think it's more that if we continue on this path, like for example, with our system, if we continue on this path where it doesn't need to, query the full evaluator every time, eventually it'll get to the point where it might not even need the evaluator, or it'll only need it at the end when sending a drug to clinical trial, or a material and the fabricator. So I think it's really just, I guess we and collectively the AI for Science community, I think we're heading in the right direction. I don't think I view it as like black and white, as we're only doing verifiable and then we're going to go to unverifiable domains and figure it out.
Interesting. I have one more question. Jordy, do you have anything?
Yeah, I was just going to ask, what do you think your business looks like 2 years from now? I won't say 5 or 10, but like where is this work going?
Yeah, for sure. So, I guess we really believe in not building co-pilots. What we are really trying to do here is build fully autonomous systems that are deployed in R&D environments and just run the entire loop, autonomously perpetually. Obviously, we're quite far away from that right now. We have to deploy the system, we have to monitor it, we have to see it work, make sure it's succeeding. But I think at the end of the day, definitely 2 years from now, we want to be at the point where our system can basically be deployed as infrastructure in any computational R&D problem, and then it gets access to the data on the problem, it gets access to the ability to run experiments on that problem, and then it gets deployed in an environment in which it's hard to hack, and you're getting good signal out of the experiments, and then boom, it runs autonomously. It's cranking out discoveries, it's shipping them, and humans can be there to take a look and make sure it's not messing up. But eventually, we want it to be running end to end.
Last question.
Very cool.
Tell us a little bit about the company. Where are you based? How big's the team? Who are you hiring?
What you were doing before this?
Yeah,
all
what's
that
the
good
shape
stuff.
of the company?
Yeah, for sure. So we're based in San Francisco. We just moved into our new office. That's why my background's pretty boring right now. We're growing pretty quickly. I've been really proud of the team we've been putting together. I mean, we have researchers, coming from DeepMind, Anthropic, Factory AI, both in industry and in academia. I think this is like a really fundamental problem that needs to be worked on, and it's not just a research problem. It's not just an infrastructure problem. It's it's the whole stack, and we've been putting a pretty incredible team together to do so. And I guess before this, my co-founder and I ran a pretty large nonprofit research group. We were primarily funded by the National Science Foundation. Obviously, very different from running a company nowadays. But we did a lot of fundamental research in coding language capabilities. Published some of the first work in test time scaling with language models, and it kind of felt like a natural progression because we were really curious about how do we model agentic behavior in this kind of search process, and it kind of just made sense that this is the time, this is the place. Let's make it happen, and that's what we're doing in Intology.
Yeah, well,
Amazing.
Thank you so much for coming on the show.
I'm sure you'll be back on soon.
Have a great rest of your day.
Very cool update.
And we'll
Great
talk
to meet you.
soon. Goodbye.
Thanks,
Cheers, Ron.
Let's go to this Paul Graham post. He had such a wild experience as he bought a book. It was awful. Didn't want it on my shelves, but I couldn't throw it away. So it sat on a table near the door.
I know someone that will rip it apart, feed it to a machine, and burn it. I know someone. I don't know them personally, but I know they would love to take this off your hands.
Rushing to an appointment this morning, I grabbed it to read it. First mistake. Then went to breakfast and had nothing else. So I spent the morning reading the worst book I own. It's such a funny, just like, I don't know. It feels like a Curb Your Enthusiasm episode or something like that. Anyway, thank you so much for tuning into TBPN today. We'll see you tomorrow at 11 a.m. Pacific. Leave us 5 stars on Apple Podcasts and Spotify.
It's been an honor.
Sign up for our newsletter, tbpn.com. Goodbye.